evening. If you could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. Good evening, everyone. I want to welcome you to the June 20th, 2023 Zoning Hearing Master hearing. My name is Susan Finch, and I'll be presiding as the hearing master over this evening's cases. Again, thank you all for your patience. We are about 35 minutes late in starting this due to the court reporter issue, and so we are going to try to keep to the time frames we can to move this along as fast and expeditiously. So let me start by introducing Ms. Michelle Heinrich. She's with the Development Services Department. She'll introduce other staff members at the dais that will be participating and also go over any changes we have to tonight's agenda. Ms. Heinrich.
Great, thank you. Along with myself from Development Services, we have Brian Grady to my left. With the County Attorney's Office, we have Mary Dorman. And with the Planning Commission, we have Andrea Papandrew. And I'll go ahead and go over the unpublished continuances. The first one is Agenda Page 6, Item B1, PD 22-0648. Staff is requesting a continuance to the 24th, 2023 ZHM hearing. And the second one is Agenda Page 6, Item C1. This is a standard rezoning, 22-1681, and the applicant has requested a continuance to the July 24th, 2023 ZHM hearing.
All right. Is the applicant here?
Oh, I apologize for the second item, Agenda Page 6, C1, standard rezoning, 22-1681. This application is being continued to the January 24th hearing. It was not made by the applicant.
Oh, you mean July 24th?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. All right. And so the applicant, there's no reason to call them?
Correct.
All right. Thank you so much. So just for the record, make sure everybody got that. That's Agenda Page 6, Item B1, rezoning PD 22-0648, being continued to the July 24th ZHM, and also Agenda Page 6, Item C1, rezoning 22-1681, also being continued to July 24th, 2023. Ms. Heinrich, you want to continue with the changes?
Okay, sure. The first one is Item A1, PD 22-0075. This application is being continued by the applicant to the July 24th, 2023 ZHM hearing. Item A2, Major Mod 22-0671. This application is out of order to be heard and is being continued to the July 24th, 2023 ZHM hearing. Item A3, PD 22-0877. This application is being withdrawn from the ZHM process. Item A4, Standard Rezoning 22-1431. This application is withdrawn by the zoning administrator in accordance with LDC Section 10.03.02.c.2. Item A5, PD application 221503. This application is out of order to be heard and is being continued to the July 24th, 2023 ZHM hearing. Item A6, Major Mod 22-1510. This application is out of order to be heard and is being continued to the July 24th, 2023 ZHM hearing. Item A7, PD 22-1577. This application is out of order to be heard and is being continued to the July 24th, 2023 ZHM hearing. Item A8, PD 22-1604. This application is being withdrawn from the ZHM process. Item A9, Major Mod 22-1637. This application is out of order to be heard and is being continued to the July 24th, 2023 ZHM hearing. Item A10, Major Mod 22-1638. This application is out of order to be heard and is being continued to the July 24th, 2023 ZHM hearing. Item A11, PD 22-1647. This application is being continued by staff to the July 24th, 2023 ZHM hearing. Item A12, PD 22-1688. This application is out of order to be heard and is being continued to the July 24th, 2023 ZHM hearing. Item A13, PD number 23-0059. This application is out of order to be heard and is being continued to the July 24th, 2023 ZHM hearing. Item A14, standard rezoning 23-0082. This application is out of order to be heard and is being continued to the July 24th, 2023 ZHM hearing. Item A15, major mod application 23-0161. This application is being withdrawn from the ZHM process. Item A16, PD 23-0181. This application is being continued by the applicant to the July 24th, 2023 ZHM hearing. Item A17, PD application 23-0184. This application is out of order to be heard and is being continued to the July 24th, 2023 ZHM hearing. Item A18, PD rezoning 23-0193. This application is out of order to be heard and is being continued to the July 24th, 2023 ZHM hearing. Item A19, PD application 23-0257. This application is out of order to be heard and is being continued to the July 24th, 2023 ZHM hearing. Item A20, major mod application 23-0269. This application is being continued by the applicant to the July 24th, 2023 ZHM hearing. Item A21, major mod application 23-0281. This application is out of order to be heard and is being continued to the July 24th, 2023 ZHM hearing. Item A22, PD 23-0287. This application is out of order to be heard and is being continued to the July 24th, 2023 ZHM hearing. Item A23, standard rezoning 23-0324. This application is out of order to be heard and is being continued to the July 24th, 2023 ZHM hearing. Item A24, standard rezoning 23-0443. This application is being continued by staff to the July 24th, 2023 hearing. And that concludes all the changes.
All right, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Let me start by going over our hearing procedures. Our hearing today consists of agenda items that require a public hearing by a zoning hearing master. I'll conduct a hearing on each agenda item and will file a recommendation within 15 business days following tonight's hearing. That recommendation is then sent to the Board of County Commissioners, who will make the final decision. Our hearing tonight is informal. I'll ask questions related to the scope of direct testimony, and I will call and question witnesses as I deem appropriate and will decide all questions of procedure. I'll take evidence, but will exclude evidence that is irrelevant, immaterial, or unduly repetitious. Evidence may be presented in written form, and all testimony must be under oath. Hearsay evidence may be used to supplement or explain other evidence, but shall not be sufficient alone to support a finding by me unless it would be admissible over objections in a civil action. Our order of presentation for tonight's hearing is as follows. Ms. Heinrich of the Development Services Department will make a brief introduction for each agenda item. Next would be the applicant. The applicant goes first and has 15 minutes to present their case, including anyone with them on their development team that would like to make a presentation, 15 minutes total. Then we'll go back to the Development Services Department staff planner who was assigned the case. They will have 5 minutes to present the county's findings as stated in their staff report. Next, we'll go to the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission also has 5 minutes to discuss their finding of the application's consistency with the county's comprehensive plan. Next, we'll go to proponents, anyone who would like to speak in favor of an application. Total time for everyone is 15 minutes. The same is true next when we go to opponents, anyone who would like to speak against an application. Everyone, total 15 minutes. Finally, we'll go back to Development Services to ask if they have any amendments or comments based on tonight's testimony. And then the last word is had by the applicant. The applicant has 5 minutes for rebuttal to address any issues they'd like to. I don't think this will be a problem tonight, but just to go over it regarding that 15 minutes for proponents and opponents, if there are multiple people that would like to speak, either in favor or against, I will ask for a show of hands. We have people in the room, but we also have people participating virtually online. So we'll count how many people want to speak in favor, for instance, and we will divide that 15 minutes as equally as we can so everyone has a chance, but we stay on track with our time constraints for tonight's hearing. If you are going to speak, whether you're in the room or online, always start by giving me your name and address for the record. We are recording this hearing. You know that for a fact. We're recording this hearing. And we want to make sure that we get everyone's name and the case they're associated with correctly. If you are in the room when you're done at the podium, if you could see Michael at the end of the dais, he's with the clerk's office. He is keeping a written log with that information. So please sign in also with your name, address, and the case number that you spoke to. Let me now turn to the county attorney, who will provide you the legal requirements which govern your participation at the Board of County Commissioners meeting. Ms. Dorman.
Mary Dorman from the County Attorney's Office. Tonight's public hearing is the first step of a two-step rezoning process. This hearing is the time for rezoning applicants and interested parties to present testimony and evidence. Any evidence presented tonight will become the complete factual record of each application, and no additional evidence can be introduced after the closing of each application. The second step of the rezoning process is a public meeting before the Board of County Commissioners, where the board will make a decision on each application heard tonight. Tonight's applications are scheduled to be heard by the board at its August 8th, 2023 land use meeting. When considering applications, the board will only review the record created at tonight's hearing and the recommendation made by the land use hearing officer for each application. The land use hearing officer will file a recommendation for each application heard tonight on July 12th, 2023. The Board of County Commissioners has established a policy that directs which rezoning and major modification applications are to be placed on the consent agenda of the board's land use meeting. Applications that propose to add density outside the urban service area, applications that are on roadways with a failing level of service, and applications that have had evidence or testimony provided to the record by non-applicant parties of record either prior to or at the public hearing tonight are not qualified for placement on the consent agenda. Applications which do not have consistent recommendations of approval or denial are also not qualified to be placed on the consent agenda. The board will allow public testimony by parties of record at its meeting to consider the land use hearing officer's recommendation for any item on the regular agenda. Any public testimony shall be limited to the record of the proceedings before the land use hearing officer unless additional evidence has been found admissible in accordance with Section 10.03.04D of the Land Development Code. A party of record is an individual who fits into at least one of the following four categories. First, an individual who's present tonight and presents testimony or documentary evidence. Second, an individual certified by the U.S. Postal Service as having been mailed notice of tonight's hearing. Third, an individual who submitted documentary evidence to the master file at least 2 business days prior to tonight's hearing. Or fourth, an individual who submitted documentary evidence by proxy at tonight's hearing. Again, the content of oral argument before the board shall be limited to the content of the testimony and other evidence submitted verbally or in writing to the land use hearing officer tonight. It is the role of the county attorney's office to ensure that only individuals who have met these requirements are allowed to speak before the board and to ensure that no new evidence or testimony is introduced or allowed at the board's public meeting. For these reasons, please make sure that all information you wish the board to consider at its public meeting is entered into tonight's record.
Thank you, Ms. Dorman. I appreciate it. All right, as I mentioned, all testimony must be under oath. So if you plan to speak tonight, if you're in the room or online, please stand, raise your right hand, and I'll swear you in. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you so much. Please be seated. All right, Ms. Heinrich, now we are ready to call the first case.
Sure. Our first case tonight is agenda item C2. This is standard rezoning application 23-0115. This request is to rezone the property from RSC 6 to RMC 20. Isis Brown with Development Services will provide staff findings after the applicant's presentation.
All right, is the applicant here?
My name is Dilip Agarwal. I'm here for the location 5817 Teresa Street. The land is in an R20 future area. All the development across the land is basically townhomes. The second lot right next to this lot already has townhouses built on them, and in front of them also it has townhouses built on them. So basically, all the lots right next to it, in front of it, at the back of it, they all have the R20 zoning. This particular lot has not been sold for a very long time, and that's why it has the old RSC6 zoning, and we are requesting it to be rezoned to R20. That's
Okay.
all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I don't have any further questions. If you could please sign in with the clerk's office. Thank you for your testimony. All right, we'll go to Development Services. Good evening.
Good evening, Isis Brown, Development Services. This case was previously heard at the April hearing. However, the school board comments were not on file, on record. Has since been submitted and fees have been made. This request is for residential RSC 6 zoning district to residential multifamily conventional 20 RMC 20 with no restrictions. There were no objections from any of the other agencies, and staff finds the case approvable. I'm available for any questions.
Nothing at this time, but thank you so much.
Thank you.
Planning Commission, please.
Andrea Pappinger, Planning Commission staff. The site is in the residential 20 future land use category and is within the town and country community plan. Residential 20 future land use category surrounds the site on all sides. Future land use element policy 1.4 requires all development to be compatible with the surrounding area. The proposed change to residential multifamily conventional zoning is compatible with the existing character of development in the area, as the existing development pattern contains extensive residential multifamily conventional zoning to the south, east, and northeast. The proposed rule also does not exceed the maximum amount of density allowed within the residential 20 future land use category. The proposed rezoning meets the intent of the neighborhood protection policies under Objective 16. The development pattern of the surrounding area shows several other residential uses with varying lot sizes, and the proposed would encourage an appropriate transition and intensity between the commercial zoning districts located south of the site and the single-family zoning districts located north. It also meets goals 8 and 12 of the community design component in the future land use element. And the town and country community plan's vision statement encourages development that increases the property values of their home. Allowing the proposed will encourage development and increase value to the area. It also is aligned with the community plan's language regarding a strong urban community. Based upon the above considerations, Planning Commission staff finds the proposed rezoning consistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. All right, do we have anyone that would like to speak in favor of this request, either in the room or online? Anyone in favor? Seeing no one, anyone in opposition to this request? No one? All
Yeah.
right. Oh, is there someone?
Sure. Yes.
Mr. Paul, is that you online?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, perfect. Give us your name and address, please, to
My
start.
name is James Paul, 8323 King Blossom Court, Tampa 33615. I'm part of the Kingsport townhouse development. I've been here since 2016.
All right, go ahead with the reasons for your opposition.
First, the development as it is now has 20 townhouses, but they already have approval for 18 to 19 more, which the county should have on record, which they are starting to build. The road that goes back to our development, Teresa, is only 130 inches wide, and right now it is only good enough for really one of your vehicles to go down. Now there's more people walking, children riding bikes. Also, I don't see anything in the county about, because what happened on the west side of the Teresa at the same area was that the trees were tagged later on by whoever works for the county, the arborist, that they're too big and too old to cut down. And this area is very small, and is occupied by large trees, and they could never be removed. It would be almost impossible to do it and fit trucks back there, as the former builder or the builder who tried to cross the west side of the street on Teresa was denied, and the dump trucks had to dump on common ground for their land. I just think that adding multifamily homes, adding maybe 70 people, which Kingsport will add within the next year, on a small road with drainage issues already, I think it is really not a safe area as far as putting your vehicles up and down. I think it'll decrease my property value. I back up to it. I'm a decorated veteran with severe PTSD, and I think putting that many homes on that small area and trying to remove trees that may be 80 to 100 years old, I think would be detrimental to my property value, counter to what was previously stated. And I think most of us feel the same way, is that this is just a too small, if to enlarge the road would be different, to make it 2 lanes, and so you have multiple areas for traffic in and out. And right now, we don't have that right now.
All right, does that conclude your comments?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for participating, I appreciate it. Is there anyone else online that would like to speak in opposition to this request? All right, seeing no one, we'll close that part of the hearing and go to Development Services. Ms. Heinrich, anything further?
Nothing further.
All right. Sir, you have the last word as the applicant. Sir, you have the last word if you'd like to say anything further before we close the hearing.
I mean,
Give us your name just to start.
yes, Dilip Agarwal, 5817 Terrace Street. I mean, I did look at the area what the gentleman said he's talking about on the back end side. I did drive through that area yesterday, and there were like 2 townhouses on both sides. And as the gentleman said, the road was sufficient for only 1 vehicle, but this has nothing to do with this project. This project is on the other side with Kingport Home. The developer built a private road inside the 2 sides of the townhouses, and I think that's what he's referring to. This project is on the Terrace Street side on the other side.
All right.
That's all I got to say.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Then with that, we'll close rezoning 23-0115 and go to the next case.
Our next item is Agenda Item C3. This is a standard rezoning 23-0203. The applicant is requesting to rezone property from AR to CN, and Chris Granillard with Development Services will provide staff findings after the applicant.
All right. Is the applicant here? Good evening.
Good evening. I hope I know how to work this. Is it one at a time? Face
Yes.
up?
Yeah, it's just like an overhead. And if you can bring the microphone over to you, if you're going to talk from them, it allows us to hear you. There you go.
Not the easiest. Okay, bear with me and I'll try to make it all work. Thank you very much. My name is Susan Swift. I'm a certified planner with Boggs Engineering, LLC. Our address is 607 South Alexander Street, Plant City, Florida. I'm representing the applicant, Man Capital Management, LLC. And this is an aerial of the general area. When our client asked us to apply for a commercial rezoning on this site on US 301 between the interstate and Fowler, the intersection of 301 and Fowler, I would not have thought that I needed a 20-slide presentation to convince anyone that this should be approved, but here I am. Our client purchased the property after the Hotel Conference Center was approved on the adjacent lot to the east, the forested site, with no specific use in mind, but anticipating from the conference center that it would be an appropriate future commercial use. We initially requested CG, but acknowledged after talking to the staff that there probably were 5 or 10 uses that may not be the best next to the existing homes. So we amended the application to neighborhood commercial, CN. Despite the staff report, we do not believe that there are any permitted uses in CN, really any uses that are not compatible with the surrounding uses or the surrounding districts. There are no objections from either the transportation, utilities, or environment departments. So my presentation is going to focus on plan consistency and compatibility, which were the concerns raised by the Planning Commission and Development Services. This is the future land use plan, which south of 301 is generally R4, residential 4. There is R12, just one set of lots south of this. The lots to the south of this site are R4. Everything to the north, on the north side of 301, is SMU 6. As you can see, the zoning is very mixed in this general area, all the way from the interstate up to Fowler, all along 301. Our site, there are a lot of PDs here, but the PDs are mostly either RV lots, or mobile home parks. Essentially, all along 301, there are no conventional or mobile home, single-family parcels. Everything is non-residential or some kind of commercial use. I think almost perhaps just our site might be the only one not in a commercial use or district. We certainly understand there are existing lots that are single-family just to the south of us. As I mentioned, north of Ripley, this is Ripley. North of Ripley is 4 units an acre. South of Ripley is 12 units an acre by land use. I'll show you that numerous setbacks and buffer protections are already built into the code, in our opinion, and show you that CN abuts residential and AR zoning throughout the county, so it was kind of surprising to hear that CN was not compatible at the external part of a neighborhood or a community, but I'll get back to that later. Just to summarize, as I said, I'll focus on consistency with the comprehensive plan and compatibility with the surrounding uses. I won't read everything. Residential 4 is what our land use is. The policies, in our opinion, support commercial neighborhood uses, actually at even a higher potential FAR than CN. And I'll come back to these. It's in an urban service area. There are a lot of policies in the plan, and we did apply for a waiver to the locational criteria, although we meet almost all aspects of it. Again, we think we can prove that CN in general is compatible, especially when it's on 301 and at the edge of neighborhoods. And we can also show that the CN setbacks, height, buffers will protect the surrounding uses. As I mentioned, it is in the urban service area. It has water and sewer facilities nearby. It's also in the county's opportunity zone, and there are several policies in the plan that encourage economic development in this area. It's also in the Nonesassa community plan. In terms of consistency, the intent statements for the residential 4 land use category speaks to neighborhood commercial being appropriate as long as it meets the locational criteria. We meet all aspects of the locational criteria except partially don't meet one, which I'll get to later. And as you can see, it does allow 0.25 FAR when CN maximum is only 0.2. Also, the CN district speaks very particularly to, in many ways, supportive uses, retail uses, neighborhood, commercial uses for residential. Let's see where. As I mentioned, this is on the cost affordable plan. It is a principal arterial according to the plan on US 301. It's 4-lane divided. It is 800 feet from Williams Road on the east, which is a collector, and also on the cost affordable plan. It's in the urban service area. It's served consistent with the Venona-Sassa plans, which really just says to balance, when it applies to this, balancing commercial and residential uses. And as I mentioned, there are a lot of policies in the plan to support this. I will not read these, but these are just a sampling of the policies that we thought support this in terms of economic development, in terms of being consistent with the surrounding uses, availability of public facilities and the market, reducing trip distances by mixing uses adjacent to each other or near each other. And then speaking to this, I would ask that you look especially at the policies in the Planning Commission report. I don't have enough time to rebut them, but I'll give you a few examples for the record where I don't think those policies are applicable to this rezoning. 1.4, the policy specifically says that compatibility does not mean the same as, yet there are many times in the report that speak to that and use that as the reason to say this is not compatible. Policy 9.2 says developments must meet or exceed the land development code, and the report says this doesn't meet it. Well, the project hasn't even been designed yet, so I think we should give them the benefit of the doubt that it will meet the land development code, because there's nothing here that says it doesn't. And again, these are just examples. Policy 16.5, which says developments of higher intensity non-residential land uses, which this is not a higher intensity category, CN, that are adjacent to established neighborhoods shall be restricted to collectors and arterials and to locations external to established and developing neighborhoods. So that policy was used to say this was inconsistent with the plan. It's not a higher intensity non-residential district. It is on an arterial, and it is external to the neighborhood. So I would ask that you take a close look at the policies that we think apply and that the Planning Commission thinks applies. We admit that the locational, one aspect of the locational criteria needs a waiver. It complies with the roads being on the cost affordable plan. It's right near the intersection of 301 and Williams Road. The site is within 900 feet of a qualifying intersection, but then there is a footnote that says 75% of the subject property must fall within the 900 feet. 75% of this site does not. Only about 25% does. So we do request the waiver to that one criterion. The applicant's property has 415 feet of frontage on Highway 301. It's 750 feet from Williams. It's 385 feet from another 2-lane road that is not on the cost affordable plan, but it intersects with 301. And as I mentioned, the north side of the highway in this segment is virtually all commercial. It is a different land use, but it's all commercial. This side doesn't seem to be any different. It's a 5-acre rectangular site, very appropriate. There's no environmental concerns that anybody knows of or has seen on this site. There are regional roadways in close proximity, and actually DOT is studying the widening of the next 13 miles north of here, just past Fowler. Not sure you can see all the numbers, but we analyzed the site and showed all the existing setbacks from the existing homes on all of the surrounding sites. And I didn't mention there's an office here, and I'll get to what's on this vacant site in a minute. We believe that there are substantial setbacks from the existing homes. The staff also mentioned that the site stretches too far into the AR and residential area. And from this angle, it looks it, but it's no different than the PD that was approved on this site, the vacant site. It's just because the angle of 301. So our depth is actually 750 feet, and that parcel is actually 860 feet deep from 301. And we do believe that the existing CN and the Land Development Code provide enough sufficient protections when residential is next to a CN use. Although the side setback and rear setbacks are 0 by code, the code also builds in, if the building is longer than 100 feet, you need to have increased setbacks. If you build walls, there are 6-foot and 8-foot walls for different options for buffers. So there are additional things for the side and rear setbacks that would be built in. Also, the AR zoning allows 50-foot heights. The CN only allows 35-foot height. It actually has a smaller building coverage than the AR, and there actually aren't any impervious surface requirements for the other two zones. So it's really not incompatible with the two zoning districts that are next to it. And I think the most surprising thing is to see the definition of agriculture and agricultural uses. So 2 of these properties adjacent to it are AR. They're really not residential zones. They're AR zones, and they allow chicken farms, pig farms. They allow a lot of somewhat noxious uses, which CN does not. And last, believe it or not, with my 3 seconds, the PD next to it was approved with a 50-foot high building, hotel conference center that I had mentioned before, and an option of mini warehouses next to 2 existing homes. And this site is certainly no different than the one that was just recently approved. So we respectfully request that you take a look at the policies and look at our report and show that this parcel seems to be treated differently than the ones on the north side of 301, the ones on the adjacent properties, and that they are compatible with the surrounding uses and the 2 districts that abut them. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I just had a couple of questions. So you've actually covered several that I had. First was the proposed use. You said it's just a future commercial use. You had nothing identified.
Right. The applicant, the project next to it hasn't been started yet, and it's a hotel and conference center with the option of a mini warehouse. It just seems that there's going to be some commercial use, and they have no idea right now and have not designed anything.
And second, you address the depth of the parcel and the staff's concern that the property encroaches into that residential area to the south. Did you ever consider limiting the area consistent with the parcel perhaps to the west for your rezoning boundary?
Well, it actually would create a non-conforming AR lot because it's a 5-acre requirement. So we discussed that with the staff and pointed that out.
Okay.
And not to mention that it would also put those, even if it was an AR lot, then that AR or home or RSC, whatever it would be next to CN. So somebody, if it's really perceived as being incompatible and inconsistent, then you're just creating it one lot over. So it really didn't make logical sense.
I see. And then my last question is if you ever considered restrictions on those uses, on the CN uses, in terms of limiting any use?
Not really, because we discussed with the staff what uses they thought in the CN were egregious or incompatible, and after looking at what's allowed in the AR, we couldn't find any permitted uses that we thought were not appropriate next to residential or next to a farm on 301.
All right.
And it seemed like from the analysis in the staff report that unless you're a PD, you can't be considered compatible with residential. Everything seemed to speak to you can't rezone to a conventional district anymore.
All right. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate
you.
it. If you could please sign in with the clerk's office.
Thank
you so much. We'll go to Development Services. Good evening.
Good evening. Chris Gralinar, Planner with Development Services. Here to present rezoning 23-0203. The applicant is proposing to rezone from the existing AR, agricultural rural, to commercial neighborhood. The approximate 5.0 acre single-family residential parcel is located at 11315 North US Highway 301 in Thonotosassa. The area consists of single-family residential and commercial. The subject parcel is directly adjacent to single-family residential zoned RSC4 with mobile home overlay to the south. To the east, the parcel is adjacent to a vacant commercial property zoned PD 020215 and single-family residential zoned AR. To the west, the parcel is adjacent to commercial zone CN and single-family residential zoned AR. To the north across US 301 is commercial zone PD 890052 and PD 020215. The subject parcel is designated residential 4 on the future land use map. Development Services has compatibility issues with the single-family residential adjacent to the south, east, and west. While the parcels to the east and west are both commercial as well, they do not encroach as far into the residential area. The subject parcel is surrounded on 3 sides by single-family residential. Therefore, the proposed zoning uses would extend potential impacts associated with the commercial district much further into the adjacent residential area than would occur with the adjacent existing commercial uses. Based on the residential 4 future land use classification, the surrounding zoning and development pattern, and the proposed uses for the commercial neighborhood district, staff finds the request not supportable. That concludes my staff report. I'm glad to answer any questions you might have.
No questions at this time, but thank you so much.
Thank you.
Planning Commission.
Andrea Papandrew, Planning Commission staff. The site is in the residential 4 future land use category and is within the Thonotosassa community plan. The residential 4 future land use category surrounds the site to the west, south, and east. Residential 12 is located further south across Ripley Road, and suburban mixed use 6 is further north. The proposed rezoning does not meet the intent of policy 1.4 on compatibility and objective 16 in its policies regarding neighborhood protection. Planning Commission staff recognize that North US Highway 301 is an arterial roadway. However, there are established residential properties that abut the site to the west, south, and east. Commercial neighborhood uses will allow for the possibility of adverse impacts on these existing residential areas. Approximately 415 feet of the site abuts existing single-family to the east and 210 feet of the site to the west. The site does not meet commercial locational criteria. At least 75% of the front-facing side of the subject site must be within 900 feet of the nearest qualifying intersection node. The applicant has submitted a commercial locational criteria waiver. The waiver emphasizes that the site's 415 feet of frontage on 301 provides ample distance for access to commercial neighborhood type uses, and that the shape of the parcel makes the site appropriate for commercial development. The request also notes the development pattern of the area and that surrounding properties are zoned for commercial uses. And lastly, the waiver submitted states that regional roadways near the site are planned for expansion, and the adjacent segment of US 301 is on the 2040 cost affordable map and the corridor preservation plan. Staff have reviewed and do not recommend the Board of County Commissioners grant a waiver to the established locational criteria. The site is located in an area with several other commercial uses. However, staff have compatibility concerns with the full range of CN uses that would be allowed directly next to the established residential areas. Some of these uses would include gas stations and drive-through restaurants. Additionally, roadway location, the 2040 cost affordable map, does not automatically waive locational criteria requirements, and the corridor preservation plan does not impact the locational criteria. The applicant has stated the site is within a designated opportunity zone. Opportunity zones are a federal tax program designed to encourage long-term private investments in distressed communities. This is a federal program separate from the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan, which is why that was not taken into formal consideration during staff's review for the application. The proposed CN zoning would not meet commercial development pattern criteria in our community design component. It also, the Winona-Sassa Community Plan establishes guidance on community identity protection. The proposed rezoning would bring commerce to the area, but its size and full range of allowable uses would threaten the existing community, its identity and housing. Based upon the above considerations, Planning Commission staff finds the proposed rezoning inconsistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan.
Let me ask you one question regarding a review of this property, given the proximity to existing commercially zoned parcels along 301. Was there ever a consideration for infill, classifying this as an infill parcel?
I don't see anything on the staff report that notes that the site qualified for an infill bonus or any of those policies.
Okay, all right, thank you so much, I appreciate it. All right, we'll go to anyone that would like to speak in support. Anyone in favor of this application that would like to testify? Seeing no one in the room, no one online? Is there anyone that would like to speak in opposition to this request?
I'm not really in opposition, but I want a correction to it.
All right, you'll have to come forward and give us your name and address on the record. Good evening.
My name's Rodney Smith. I own the property at 9412 Ripley Road, which is just adjacent to the east of it. On their original property plan, I don't know if you can see this, but it's
Sir, can I stop you just for a moment? I'm going to let you continue with that, but let me just say, for anyone else in the audience on this case or any other case, we typically do not allow people to show graphics from a tablet or a phone, but that clearly is a piece of the staff report or an agency comment, so I'll allow it. But if you have pictures or something like that that you want to show them from your phone, we don't allow that because they can't be submitted into the record. So just give you a heads up. Go ahead.
They have on there that it is where it says frontage on US 301 and Hershey Road. There is no frontage on Hershey Road. Hershey Road stops at Williams Road. It dead ends into Williams Road. What is adjacent that crosses Williams or Ripley Road to the north is my personal private driveway. And so it is not Hershey Road. It's never been Hershey Road. Even though the maps like to call it Hershey Road, it is not Hershey Road. It is my private driveway. And there's signs on the road. When you originally put up the zoning commission or zoning signs on my property, not on public property, but on my property, whoever did it twice passed no trespassing signs and private drive signs to go 400 feet down my driveway and to put it on there. So it is known, and it has been brought up in front of this board before, that this is a personal private driveway. It's not an easement. That property is owned by me.
So I'm looking at the aerial of the site. So your address is on Ripley Road, and you front Ripley. That's your home fronts Ripley Road, right?
Yes.
And it extends as far back as to be just east of this subject property. Is that correct? Your property goes.
I know you don't want you said you don't do graphics, but if you pull up the graphics on the board, you'll see that this is from the.
That's fine. That's from the staff report.
From the report. This property here is what they're looking at. Everything in red is mine.
Oh, I see. You own the larger piece as well. Okay.
Yeah, I own that 5 acres, and I'm trying to clean it up. My parents have passed away. It's now mine. I'm trying to prepare it to sell, but I'm just trying to straighten this up.
Oh, I understand. So I understand your issue that is not a public road and it is your property that is your driveway. I totally understand that.
And I'm not going to fight or say anything for or against what they're going to do. There's changes coming. I can't stop that. I just want to make sure that this here is shown that you don't have frontage at this time off of Hershey Road.
Understood. All right. Thank you for that testimony. I appreciate it. If you could please sign in. Thank you, sir. I really appreciate it. Anyone else that would like to speak in opposition, either in the room or online? All right. Seeing no one, we'll go back to Development Services. Ms. Heinrich, anything else?
No, ma'am.
All right. Ms. Swift, you have 5 minutes for rebuttal.
Thank you. I have nothing else.
All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Then with that, we'll close rezoning 23-0203 and go to the next case.
Our next item is item C4, Standard Rezoning 23-0330. The applicant is requesting to rezone property to BPO with restrictions. Chris Greenlard with Development Services will provide staff findings after the applicant's presentation.
Thank you. Okay, great. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening, hearing officer, staff. Todd Pressman, 200 2nd Avenue South, number 451 in St. Petersburg. This is RZ Standard 23-0330. We're located in the northeastern area, in the roughly town and country area on Waters Avenue, as you can see here. And per the property appraiser, this is how the property is laid out. One street is Waters, the other street is Montague. Planning Commission supports, as well does Development Services Department. The issue is rezoning from a PD to BPO uses. The PD currently allows 15 townhome units. So we're looking to change from 15 townhome units to BPO uses. We do have restrictions. I'll give you more details on it, that the townhomes are presented in a residential type characteristic. So looking at the site here, two of the main elements that you'll see is a school campus and multifamily that are on Waters. This is a zoning map, which is all PD in the area. As the zoning report says, to the east, adjacent is a vacant commercial lot, which was 870161. And the overlay future land use category is R6, which is residential, suburban commercial, offices, multi-purpose, mixed use. This is the SwiftMud approved wetland delineation. I want to go through a few slides, explain to you what's happening on the property. So as you can see in the corner, there's an area that's designated specifically as uplands. All the other area wetlands is untouched. So you have what's showing as the green area as being the uplands area where any development would occur. The rest are wetlands untouched. Along the bottom is a 50-foot easement, which you can see I have here in green. So overall, total acres are 9.21. The total acres wet are 6.21, and the total acres upland is 3.01. So I do want to place emphasis that none of the wetlands are being touched or mitigated. The 9.21 remains pristine. Only the 3.01 of the uplands issue, where 32% of the land is used, which we think is a credit to the property owner and developer. Under the original PRS, the access would be on West Waters, as shown here. And again, in regard to the zoning report, noting the commercial zoning abutting. This is the school that is roughly across the street. As you can see in the aerial, it's across the street down just a little bit. It's quite a big campus, quite a big building. And then this is the multifamily, just to get you familiar with the property a little bit. Now, there are 4 close by neighbors, which are on the other side of the 50-foot easement. I have that highlighted in green. And you can see the upland areas and the 50-foot easement along Waters. And I've noticed 1, 2, 3, 4. Those would be the only neighbors who are abutting to the property. And the applicant or the owner and myself have touched base with a few owners. The feedback that we've gotten back, I don't have anything in writing, the feedback we've had back from a couple of the owners is did not want to have loss of property by having townhomes and people peering down at them on a consistent basis, having activity in the backyard, pools, and that sort of thing. Would prefer a bit quieter business use, typically 8 to 5 weekdays, no weekends typically, and again, no activity in the backyard. Looking a little further or pulling back a little bit, other residents are across the street, which is Waters Avenue, a 4-lane divided highway, which is a pretty wide area. This is a photo of it here. The site is to the left, and other residents would be to the right on West Waters. And per the Planning Commission data, close to the site is 11,000 vehicles per day, which is a busy arterial roadway. Waters is busy, and this would be, as far as we're concerned, an appropriate use, BPO, on that type of roadway. The specific restrictions that are in the report are, at a minimum, shall have a pitch roof with a minimum 4 to 12 pitch ratio. Buildings should be clad in stucco, brick, or wood. Windows should have features such as trims or casings consistent with an architectural design of the building. On the zoning recommendation, that report reads, the area consists of residential, commercial, institutional, and this would be consistent with the zoning pattern and compatible. Planning Commission notes it is compatible with the development pattern and policies, complementary use, and the need to protect existing neighborhoods and communities meets locational criteria. It's a good transitional use. They also note that it's consistent with the Northwest Area Community Plan and Town and Country Community Plan, and will help with traffic congestion by providing employment within walking distance to nearby residential homes. So with that, again, with the staff recommendations and what we presented, we feel that this is a good, strong presentation to you, and we hope to have your recommendation.
Mr. Pressman, do you, I note the restrictions include the commitments to a residential appearance, residential character with a pitched roof and so forth. Is there a rendering or something that you've prepared to reflect that?
We have not prepared a rendering.
Okay, that was my only question. Thank you so much.
Thank
If
you.
could please sign in. All right, Development Services.
Good evening, Chris Growlenard again, planner with Development Services. Here to present 23-0330. The applicant is proposing to rezone from the existing PD 87-0161 planned development to BPO restricted, business professional office restricted. The approximate 9.2 acre vacant parcel is located at 8525 Montague Street. The applicant proposes business professional offices. The area consists of residential, commercial, and institutional. To the west, subject parcel is directly adjacent to residential lots and a conservation area. To the east, the subject parcel is directly adjacent to vacant commercial lot. To the north, across West Waters Avenue is a school and residential lots. To the south, across Montague Street, are residential lots. And the subject parcel is designated residential 6 on the future land use map. The Planning Commission found the proposed use consistent with the comprehensive plan. In response to the Planning Commission and Development Services concerns regarding the bulk, scale, and mass of the project in relation to the nearby residential uses, We got with the applicant, and he has offered the following restrictions to ensure residential style architecture. The building structures will have residential characteristics. At a minimum, the following shall be provided: shall have a pitched roof with a minimum of 4 to 12 pitch ratio. Building shall be clad with stucco, brick, or wood siding. Windows shall have features such as trims or casings consistent with the architectural design of the building. The subject parcel is directly adjacent to vacant commercial lot to the east, and the subject parcel's northern section is located on Waters Avenue, a county arterial conducive to high levels of commercial traffic. Therefore, the rezoning of the subject parcel from PD 87-0161 to BPOR, Business Professional Office Restricted, would be consistent with the existing zoning pattern of the area. There's also a personal appearance modification, PRS 23-0581, which removes the parcel from the planned development, which is pending currently. Based on the residential 6 future land use classification, the surrounding zoning and development pattern, and the proposed uses for the Business Professional Office Restricted District, staff finds the request approvable. That concludes my staff report. I'd like to answer any questions you might have.
None at this time, but thank you so much. Planning Commission.
Andrea Pappinger, Planning Commission staff. The site is in the residential 6 future land use category and is within the Northwest area and town and country community plans. The site is surrounded by the residential 6 future land use category to the north, east, and south. Natural preservation is located to the west, and public quasi-public is to the southwest. Policy 1.4 of the future land use element requires all new development to be compatible with the surrounding area. The area is mostly residential, public institutional, and the proposed business professional office use is compatible with the development pattern. Per the Southwest Water Management District, there are 6.21 acres of wetlands. Staff finds this request consistent with Objective 13, Policy 13.3, as the proposal is subject to the environmentally sensitive land credit, which allows a 1.25 credit on the acreage of the uplands. The proposed development does not exceed the maximum intensity allowed. The proposed development is compatible with the surrounding uses and meets the intent of Objective 16 and its policies on compatibility, complementary uses, and neighborhood protection. The site is also subject to commercial locational criteria and is within 900 feet of the nearest qualifying intersection, which is Waters Avenue and Montague Street. The community design component, Goal 12, and its policies contain direction on encouraging compatibility with the surrounding developments. Planning Commission staff finds the request consistent with the development pattern. However, there are nearby residential areas that should be considered at the site development stage to ensure impacts are kept to a minimum. Based on this, staff has recommended a condition of approval to include a residentially themed facade. The request is consistent with the Northwest Area Community Plan, Section D, on economic development opportunities to balance employment opportunities with housing, and also consistent with the Town and Country Community Plan, as the vision includes redevelopment of older commercial centers, a strong business section, and meaningful employment opportunities. Planning Commission staff finds the proposed rezoning consistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Is there anyone in the room or online that would like to speak in support? Anyone in favor? Seeing no one, anyone in opposition to this request? No one. Ms. Heinrich, anything else?
No, ma'am.
All right, we'll go back to the applicant. You're good? All right, thank you so much. Then with that, we'll close rezoning 23-0330 and go to the next case.
Our next case is item C5, standard rezoning 23-0351. The applicant is requesting to rezone property to CI with restrictions. Isis Brown with Development Services will provide staff comments after the applicant's presentation.
Good evening again.
What did I do? Thank you. Thank you very much. Good Good evening, Todd Pressman, 200 2nd Avenue South, number 451, St. Petersburg. This is RZ STD 23-0351. I'm here with Dennis Linnell Creech, who's the applicants before you. The issue today is AR to CIR with restrictions. We're located in the South County area, as indicated on the location map. Again, rezoning from AR to CIR. A little closer, you can see that we're in the Ruskin area on College Avenue. This is the parcel that will be purchased, which is 2.71 acres, and I want to run you through a number of slides here on what's before you. The requested zoning area is 1.1 acres, which the applicant owns. Next door is indicated there and shown here, contiguous and abutting. So again, the requested zoning area is this area here. The access will be through the existing owned property, which is actually one of the restrictions. And we've submitted a survey as well that depicts the zoning parcel, and again, applicant owning abutting. College Avenue is very busy with 29,000 vehicles per day. It's clearly one of the main arterials in the area. Restriction number one is access from taking access from the abutting owner's property. Second is a buffer of 70 feet from the north, which will allow to be remaining as a very dense, thick, and very high forestation area. And the only use would be permitted open storage of domestic vehicles. That is the Creech's business, their current business. So we're restricting strictly to that use, which will be a quiet, low trips, no infrastructure, no odors, and tremendously reduces the intensity and impact of what would be typically a CI zoning category. So looking at the zoning map, you can see there's a lot of CGs and commercial activity on College. You can see the site here. In '04, there was a PD to allow 2,000 square feet of retail and 4,000 square feet of wholesale distribution, which was roughly right across the street. You'll see the PD, you'll see the site, and across the street is the PD 040566, which was an intensive rezoning. The area is SMU 6. I think that's important because, as you well know, SMU 6 calls for light industrial, let alone multi-purpose suburban commercial research parks. That's a very intensive overlay category. So one restriction I mentioned was the 70-foot north buffer, which is an extreme buffer. Again, the use on the site is quiet, it's low trips, no infrastructure. Now, I did want to review the staff reports with you because I personally had some concerns about how these reports were presented to you, and I'd like to address them if I may. Transportation, 4 comments. It's our opinion the first 3 comments don't apply in the least. The first comment is indicating about taking access from College Avenue and notes that we were asked to provide information about access, but this point number 1 says was never received. And you'll see in point number 4, it was received. Point number 2 is discussion of College Avenue access, which we're not taking at all. So that point was off mark as well. Point 3 was a concern about taking access through College Avenue through a residential parcel. That again doesn't apply at all because we're not doing that. Finally, number 4, transportation department comment, they accept the abutting access, but they want a certified parcel process or easement of some sort, even though the property owner owns the property. So we feel that a lot of those comments were off the mark, unfortunately. Now, the Planning Commission report, while the staff does a great job and they're a great department, the difficulty there is that the code is very clear, 5.03.02, on mixed-use comp plan categories. Applications that are greater than 2 acres require a PD. Well, we're under 2 acres, and I've submitted under 2 acres in the past for the same reason. They don't need to use it all. That's all they want to use. That's all they need of the entire parcel. But the Planning Commission's main thrust, almost an entire page of the report, is that they need to have more. They need to have a PD. They need to have a PD level site plan or a detailed site plan, which is not necessary, isn't called for under the code, and quite frankly, we're either going to follow the code or not. We're under the 2 acres. code says we're fine, and we can go through with a standard. However, the Planning Commission does say the development pattern and character of this portion of College Avenue contains light commercial uses along College Avenue. I think my personal opinion is that did not place enough weight on the SMU overlay future land use category, which includes light industrial uses. They refer, and they also refer to this being an intense commercial use, but what they did not factor in, with great respect to the Planning Commission, they did not factor in the restrictions that this will be quiet, low trips, no infrastructure, no odors. In fact, when I asked the Creeches, which Ms. Creech will verify for me, she indicated they get maybe, was it 3 people a day? Per day? An average 3 people a day who are coming to the site. So while we're asking for CI, because the restrictions were a much, much less impacting use. Planning Commission also refers to the compatibility about being it's the same as sensitivity development. Well, with the restrictions we're providing with a 70-foot buffer to the north and the reduction to 1 use, we feel that we are compatible. We're compatible to the CGs, we're compatible to the PD that was approved across the street. And that applies to the community plans and how they reviewed the community plans as well. In fact, when you look at the Ruskin Community Plan, when it looks under Goal 2, Economic Development, provide opportunities for business growth and jobs, strategy, ensure there's appropriate land area zoned for office and light industrial development. So we are officially under light industrial development, but again, we've reduced that use substantially. Also promote beautification and landscaping along US 41, College Avenue, and Shell Point Road. So as you look at College Road, this site really is in really bad, it just doesn't look good. In fact, the first thing you see is a garbage dumpster and unfortunately very old, very unkept land and residences. What will be required is a 6-foot solid PVC fence or wood along the front. So it will be an improvement, it will be a beautification. All the vehicles will be domestic vehicles, so they'll be below the 6-foot fence, so there will not be a visible impact. There's not commercial vehicles or commercial trucks, strictly domestic. Zoning staff recommendation is important because they note, given the adjacent zoning development pattern, staff finds the site characteristics, the required buffering, screening, and setbacks, and the proposed restrictions provide appropriate mitigation for any potential impacts of the proposed rezoning. Planning Commission, again, I think it's important to state, they find the development pattern and character of this portion of College Avenue that includes light commercial uses along the avenue. Zoning staff recommendation, of course, we know that they will take the Planning Commission recommendation in a balance to their review. But because of the transportation, which we feel the transportation comments are very much off the mark, in fact, extremely off the mark, and because the Planning Commission, we feel as well, as I've stated to you, is also off the mark, that pulled zoning staff recommendation in a different direction. They also note that this would be increasing, zoning staff, a non-conforming 2.71 acres. I'm not sure how that works because it's still going to be 2.71 acres. The size of it's not changing. We're only placing on top of it a zoning area. So our opinion is on that particular point from the zoning department, it can't be more non-conforming because the size of the property is not going to change. Now, I do have a couple letters that I think are in great respect to Mr. Creech and how he's run the business and how he's run this business and the expansion. From FHP, Lieutenant David Fry notes he's been with FHP for 2 years. His business is to work in conjunction with law enforcement, including the sheriff's office, to pick up vehicles from accidents and bring them to the site, and they stay there for quite a long time until the insurance and all those matters are done. FHP notes that he's been with FHP for 2 years, provided excellent service to the public and agency, operate in several zones, keep the trucks presentable. They provide background checks and driver's license check for all their workers. Sheriff Chronister as well has a letter that Mr. Creech's business, Mr. and Mrs. Creech's business has been active with them since 1997, has been an asset to the agency and operates in several zones. This will be a good business. It will add to the Ruskin area. It will be a beautification, and it will be a good use that will be compatible. Now, I also had the Creeches be very busy and talk with every abutting property owner to the site. And these are 6 letters of support that literally abut the entire site, who are all in support of this request. So if we're concerned about compatibility, if we're concerned about impacts on residential, which we don't think we will anyway, we wanted to bring forward that all of the budding owners support this request. So with all that and with what we feel are difficulties with the staff reports, we feel that this is a request that is very supportable, and we're happy to answer any questions that you may have.
I do, just a couple. Regarding the nonconformity issue that was raised by Development Services. So you would agree, I understand what you're saying, but you would agree that the parcel is 2.71 and you're only rezoning 1.11. So therefore, the size of the remaining AR parcel will be smaller, thereby increasing the level of nonconformity.
Well, at the same time, the Creeches will own the whole property. And I think there's a lot of, there are some circuitous there. But the fact is that it's 2.71, it's going to be 0.27. I won't beat a dead horse. 2.71. The only change is the zoning overlay. It's still going to be owned by one owner. So the property is still valid as one owner.
All right. I would just correct you, in my own opinion, that it's not an overlay. You're rezoning the property to a different designation.
It's not being subdivided.
All right, so we'll leave that. And then that leads me to my transportation questions, and that is the first comment from transportation that talked about, or I'm not sure, perhaps it's the fourth, that talked about the access and the proposal to go through the subject properties, the same owner's property that's adjacent to the west, and that not being a single parcel. So therefore, you couldn't guarantee that that would be permitted access.
Well, we're happy to, maybe I should have verbalized it better, we're happy for that to be a condition of the zoning.
All right. Well, I'll, when it's appropriate, I'll go to transportation to talk to them as well.
Okay, and as you asked that question, I should have verbalized that a little better. I'll say
All right,
again.
thank you so much.
Thank you.
That's the end of my questions. If you could sign in, please. We will go to Development Services.
Good evening, Isis Brown, Development Services, Standard Rezone 23-051. The request is to rezone 1.11 acre of an existing 2.71 acre of AR to commercial intensive with restrictions. The restrictions address access limitations for the parcel, buffering and screening, and site-specific use of open storage restriction to domestic passenger vehicles only. The adjacent properties are zoned AR to the north, AR AS1, PD 780221, which is R3 with a mobile home overlay, and PD 040566 to the south, RSC 6 with mobile home overlay, AR and CG to the east, and CG RSC 6 with a mobile home overlay to the west. Therefore, from a compatibility perspective, most potentially impacted would be the parcels zoned RSC 6 MH to the northwest, AR to the north, and AR to the east. The applicant has proposed restricted uses of the 70-foot buffer to the northerly property line, which does mitigate those potential impacts. To address site access concerns, the applicant proposed access to the parcels from the contractor-owned parcel to the west. To address compatibility concerns, they also put in the restriction of just CI uses of open storage restricted to domestic passenger vehicles only. Staff notes that the proposed rezone request to the approximate 1.1 acre parcel of a 2.71 AR zoned parcel per LDC section 6.0101, AR zoned districts are required a minimum of 5 acres. And a minimum lot width of 150 feet. However, the subject parcel is approximately 2.71 acres in size and currently non-conforming. The request to portion the request to rezone a portion of a non-conforming AR zone parcel will just make it further non-conforming. The site additionally is within the College Avenue Scenic Route District and also within the potable water well district, which will trigger additional buffers and screenings due to the objections of Transportation Review and Planning Commission Review for the concerns outlined previously and the current nonconformity of the subject parcel. Staff finds the request not supportable at this time, and I'm available for any questions.
No questions at this time, but I would like to talk to the person participating from Transportation.
Okay. I think he's online.
He is.
Is that Mr. Steady?
It is.
Yes.
All right, perfect.
Good evening, Madam Hearing Officer. This is Alex Steady, Transportation Review. I'm here to answer any questions, and I was on listening. So I can go ahead and start with the question you were asking earlier. Based off of the question, based off of the access is offering a condition. I think the applicant said that they would offer a condition, but this is the standard rezoning process, and based off of this process, I can't write a condition that would require access through a property that's not included in this rezoning. More importantly, I think to maybe go to summarize our objection is that at this point, at the time of our staff report, we did not have all the facts to make an appropriate analysis about concerning the subject rezoning, and that is contingent on based off of, because the applicant indicated that they do not have direct access to College Avenue. However, we are not, with this rezoning, we have asked the applicant to meet with FDOT to get to see if they'll accept the proposed access arrangement. However, the applicant did not submit that information.
So you currently do not have that information?
Right.
All right.
That is not on the record, so we weren't able to make that analysis, and hence objection to this subject rezoning.
All right, and just to make sure I understand what you said earlier, so because this is a standard Euclidean zoning, and the proposed access is not a part of this rezoning, it's an adjacent parcel, whether it's owned by the same property owner or not, it's not included in this rezoning, you can't condition it to provide access to this parcel, correct?
Correct. That would be more appropriate in the PD process.
Understood. All right, thank you for that clarification. Did you want to add anything else before I move on?
I just also wanted to comment on the opposition based off of, or our objection based off of the split zoning. The Land Development Code does not allow a commercial property to take access through a residential property, and that is also part of why we required more information concerning the existing access and any easements, and working with the applicant to maybe include some easements in the future. So that is all. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that testimony and clarification. I appreciate it. We will go to Planning Commission.
Andrea Pappendrew, Planning Commission staff. The site is in the suburban mixed-use 6 future land use category and is within the Ruskin Community Plan and the South Shore Area-Wide Systems Plan. The subject site is surrounded by the suburban mixed-use 6 category on all sides. Surrounding uses include single-family residential to the north, mobile homes to the east, and vacant residential to the west. There are pockets of heavy and light commercial uses along College Avenue. Policy 1.4 requires all new development to be compatible with the surrounding area, noting that compatibility does not mean the same as, rather it refers to the sensitivity of development proposals and maintaining the character of existing development. The proposed zoning district for open storage of vehicles is not consistent with existing character of development. Per Objective 8, the future land use categories outline the maximum level of density and intensity and range of permitted land uses allowed in each category. According to Appendix A, rezoning shall be approved through a site plan controlled rezoning district with integrated site plans. The requested rezoning is through a standard or Euclidean rezoning district and not a planned development rezoning. A standard rezoning does not permit site planning techniques that would achieve a development compatible with the surrounding area. A PD or a planned development application allows Planning Commission staff to evaluate how the proposed commercial character would be compatible with the surrounding area uses, density, intensity, and building types. In addition, in Appendix A, the intent of the suburban mixed-use 6 future land use category states the following: rezoning shall be approved through a site plan controlled rezoning district in which the site plan demonstrates internal relations and pedestrian integration among uses, controlled through performance standards adopted in the land development regulations or through a mixed-use standard zoning district. As I said previously, a PD application would allow Planning Commission staff to evaluate how it is compatible with the surrounding area. Planning Commission staff does not support the proposed standard rezoning as it tries to circumvent the intent of the suburban mixed-use 6 future land use category. In addition, per policy 9.2, development must meet or exceed the requirements of all land development regulations. Previous rezoning applications with 2 acres or greater have followed land development code, which requires a rezoning to a planned development when in a mixed-use future land use category. The Ruskin Community Plan seeks to promote commercial development at a scale and design that reflects the character of the community. The plan does envision commercial, office, and residential from the intersection of 21st Street and College Avenue to the eastern boundary, which is where the subject site is located. Rezoning the site will change the nature of possible development, removing residential as an option. And though not necessarily a requirement, providing housing opportunities is a goal of both the Ruskin Community Plan and the South Shore Area-wide Systems Plan. Based on this, Planning Commission staff finds the proposed rezoning inconsistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Is there anyone to speak in support? Anyone in favor? Yes, ma'am. Give us your name and address to
My
start.
name is Linnell Creech. We reside at the 2212 College Avenue, right next door. The main reason why we were doing it that way was because there is a very, what you consider low-income housing that we're getting, the mobile home community that we're purchasing. We were trying to not make anybody leave. So they own their own mobile homes and they pay very minimal rent, which we include septic and well. And so we're trying not to make them move at all. So that's why we did that little corner, because otherwise they're going to have no place to go. No, they can't get rent anywhere. It's going to be very difficult to move. Their mobile homes are probably 30-some years old. So even trying to move them, they're going to probably break apart. So we were trying to help the community, let them stay where they're at, because they're not going anyplace else. So they're just going to be displaced. They'll have no homes, no place to live. So that's why we were trying to do it that way, was to make sure we didn't get rid of anything. Okay. And then the intensity that we're doing, like I said, we only come like 3 times a day. They're already coming to our shop. The only thing we're trying to do is to make it so that the tow trucks don't have to move vehicles around so much. Because if we have a little bit more room to move the regular cars, then we don't have to be moving them back and forth all day long. But it doesn't change anything of how many cars are coming in, where we're coming in at, anything like that. When the cars come in, they come in and they are stored on the lot. If they had to be moved at any time, they would be moved during the next day if they came in at night. It wouldn't disrupt anybody. So it wouldn't affect anybody in the area whatsoever. We are just trying to accommodate the owners of or the people that are currently staying in that property, and to help us just make a little bit more room for us to work.
If I can interrupt, I just want to make sure I understand. So the property you own next door, that's
Yes, ma'am.
not a part of this, that's where the cars are currently going in and out now?
Correct.
I understand.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Oh, ma'am, if you could sign in. Thank you so much. Is there anyone else that would like to speak in support? Anyone in favor, either in the room or online? Seeing no one, anyone in opposition to this request? No one. All right. Development Services, anything else?
Yes, Madam Hearing Officer, just expand for the record on the issue about the nonconformity, notwithstanding the whether or not they would subdivide it. Part of the issue is, and again, as evidenced by the last speaker's testimony about the fact that there's existing residential uses on portions of the property, you're creating a nonconformity. Even if you don't subdivide it, you're creating a nonconformity from a standpoint of, from a density standpoint, assuming there are those mobile homes are, AR zoning doesn't allow mobile home parks, so assuming they're legally nonconforming mobile home park, you're increasing the degree of nonconformity because, again, you're taking out a portion of the property that's CG that would no longer allow residential in the area. That would be the acreage that could be calculated towards that density is being reduced. So notwithstanding whether or not they subdivide it or not, I think our opinion still stands that they are increasing the degree of nonconformity by the fact that a portion of that property is being zoned to CG. Therefore, the different uses are allowed in those two districts, and so there's no residential uses allowed, no residential intensity, and so you're reducing, again, the size of the area can count towards density, towards residential that would be permitted on the other AR zone parcel that's non-conforming now, and it'd be even more non-conforming, so that's part of our concern.
And so just to follow that point, so the effect is currently if they were to, those residential units were to ask for permits to do improvements to their mobile homes or something that's on that existing, if this were done and they were made more non-conforming, does that affect those property owners?
Yeah, potentially, yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Does that conclude your comments from
Yes.
Development Services? Thank you. Then we'll go back to the applicant who has 5 minutes for rebuttal.
What I'm putting up is from the PowerPoint you just saw, but I want to point to a couple things.
All right.
So with great respect to Alex, who does a great job, what he's still referring to you is he's referring to an access, first of all, point number one, from college, which would be here, and secondly, through this parcel, which is residential, which again, we're not proposing, and we've made him aware of that because obviously his point number 4 reflects and discusses all that. So again, have quite a wide separation from transportation, which I believe, again, with great respect, is off the mark. Secondly, the project or the property that's before you certainly can accept conditions or restrictions, and a condition or restriction that the access only be by easement from the property next door would be, as I understand it, would be a condition or restriction that we could apply to this site. So in regard to those comments, again, we feel that we've had the discussion, transportation had that communication, and we're presenting it in a different direction, which was communicated to them.
Does that complete your rebuttal testimony?
I would just say again that, or I would say, the priority here is trying to take care of residents who are on the site that are not in the greatest repair condition. And as you heard from the applicant, they're trying to work with those folks, and we'll work with those folks. That's by evidence of what they're asking for here today. And in terms of compatibility and in terms of compatibility with the immediate neighborhood, we've had no opposition. And in that sense, it's a positive application that would work well on College Avenue. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it. We'll close rezoning 23-0351. It's a little after 8. We typically take a break there. So by the clock on the wall, if we could take a 5-minute recess and come back, let's just say 8:15. Thank you. All right, welcome back, everyone. We're about to resume the zoning hearing master hearing. If you could please take your seats. Ms. Heinrich, we're ready to call the next case.
Our next case is Agenda Item C6, Standard Rezoning 23-0442. The applicant is requesting to rezone property to RSC2. Isis Brown with Development Services will provide staff findings after the applicant's presentation.
All right, is the applicant here? Good evening.
Good evening. My name is John LaRocca, Murphy LaRocca Consulting Group, 3225 South McDill Avenue, Tampa, Florida. I am the representative for the owners and applicant. A little bit of background, and I'm not going to go into a lot of detail. I know the evening will be long because of our start. Of course, as everyone knows, you have a very well-written staff report that the owners, applicant, and I have reviewed, and we are in agreement, and what I'll try to do is summarize what this request is this evening. It's a standard rezoning with property located at 15802 Willowdale Road. There is an existing single-family home with frontage on Willowdale Road, but it's a through lot with access on Timberwood Drive. The reason for the request is the applicant seeks to rezone the property from ASC 1, which is an agricultural single-family residential conventional district, to an RSC 2 for single-family residential conventional. The applicant is seeking and hopes to, and should this zoning be granted, to create two lots, two half-acre lots. The lot itself is like 1.15 acres, more or less. And the applicant is seeking, with the granting of this RSC2 zoning, to be able to build either rebuild a new home on the frontage facing Willowdale Road and build a new home facing Timberwood. The proposed zoning district is RSC2, single-family residential conventional. The property area, in compliance with the comprehensive plan, the property is located within the greater Carrollwood-Northdale planning area. The property is located within the R2 future land use category. The proposed RSC2 zoning would be consistent with and comply with the comprehensive plan density and potential use criteria and policies of that plan district. The site, the parcel size and area, lot width, et cetera, would comply with all dimensional criteria for the RSC2 district, and the applicant is aware of what those conditions would be. The applicant acknowledges there will be other, as is noted in the conclusion of the staff report, that there are other standard subdivision, lot split, parcel certifications, whatever is necessary to get that second lot in compliance with all engineering and permitting requirements. The rezoning of the property to RSC2 will be compatible with the R2 future land use category that permits construction up to 2 dwelling units per acre. The existing development and zoning pattern in the surrounding area is semi-rural in nature and includes a variety of properties zoned ASC1, RSC2, RSC3, mobile home, and planned development in a community that is evolving or trending to achieve a long-range characteristic of density and use contemplated by the future land use plan. The rezoning, if approved, will be compatible with and not out of character with the existing development and the zoning pattern of the area, especially if you take a bird's eye view of the area. There are no wetlands on the property, no significant comments provided by any of the staff, and no objections, as we know that. The Planning Commission, you'll find in the report, has found the request consistent. The Development Services Department has found it approvable, and we respectfully request that you consider the same. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate your testimony. If you could please sign in. We'll go to Development Services, please.
Isis Brown, Development Services. Standard rezone 23-0442. The request is to rezone an existing agricultural single-family residential conventional 1 ASC 1 zoning district to the proposed single-family residential 2 RSC 2 zoning district. The site is located in an area which comprises of agricultural and single-family residential uses. The adjacent properties are zoned as follows: ASC 1 and RSC 2 to the north, south, east, and west. To the further north and south are properties zoned RSC2. The subject parcel is within the residential 2 future land use category, which permits the potential for residential and neighborhood commercial office uses in multipurpose projects. The subject site is located within the urban service area. Based on the size and depth of the parcel in relation to other parcels, adjacent parcels and residential uses in the area, it does create a zoning development pattern that is consistent with the existing zoning and development pattern of residential zoning districts in the area. Based on the above considerations, staff finds the proposed RSC2 zoning district approvable. I'm available for any questions.
None at this time, but thank you. Appreciate it. Planning Commission.
Andrea Pappinger, Planning Commission staff. Site is in the residential 2 future land use category and is within the greater Carrollwood-Northdale community plan. Residential 2 surrounds the site directly to the north, south, and west. To the east is the residential 4 future land use category. Policy 1.4 of the future land use element requires all new development to be compatible with the surrounding area, noting that compatibility does not mean the same as. It refers to the sensitivity of development proposals and maintaining the character of existing development. The applicant is proposing to rezone the site to RSC2 for the creation of 2 lots with a minimum lot size of a ½ acre each, and this change is compatible with existing development character of the area, as there are several parcels north and southwest that have the RSC2 zoning. The proposed meets the intent of the neighborhood protection policies under Objective 16, as the development pattern is mostly single-family residential uses. The community design component provides guidance on residential developments, and the rezoning would be consistent with the policy direction under Goals 8 and 12 and Objective 12-1. The site meets the intent of the community design and cultural component of the Greater Carrollwood-Northdale Community Plan. The plan seeks to maintain and enhance the development of existing residential neighborhoods that remain suburban in nature. Planning Commission staff finds the proposed rezoning consistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone in the room or online that would like to speak in support? Anyone in favor? All right, seeing no one, anyone in opposition to this request? No one. Ms. Heinrich, anything else?
No, ma'am.
All right, Mr. LaRocca? All right, thank you for that. I appreciate it. We'll close rezoning 23-0442 and go to the next case.
Our next item is item C7, standard rezoning 23-0469. The applicant is requesting to rezone property to RMC6. Camille Crochta with Hillsborough County Development Services will provide staff findings after the applicant.
Good evening.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Dallas Evans. I'm a licensed professional engineer and certified planner with the firm of Landis Evans and Partners. Our address is 3810 Northdale Boulevard in Tampa, and I've been sworn. With me today is our planner, Margaret Tazzone, who will be providing an overview of the proposed rezoning. We're here tonight on behalf of the applicant, Florida Home Partnership. As an administrative item, a minor correction to update a folio number has been made to the survey per coordination with staff. I have 3 copies with me tonight that I'll provide to the clerk.
Perfect, thank you.
Good evening. My name is Margaret Tazzone. Address is 3810 Northdale Boulevard in Tampa, Florida. I've been sworn. The applicant is requesting a standard district rezoning to RMC6. The subject parcel is located in the northwest corner of North and Balsa Street in Wilmama, Florida. The property is currently vacant and zoned agricultural. Adjacent uses include apartments to the north, an acquired environmental ELAP site that will perpetually be undeveloped to the west, and single-family detached and commercial uses to the south, and the Wilmama Senior Center and Bethune Park to the east. The property is within the residential 6 future land use category, as are all the surrounding properties, with the exception of the residential 9 future land uses to the north. The current zoning are the apartment complex to the north is zoned RMC 9. The elapsed land to the west was dedicated through a planned development. Zoning of the adjacent single-family residential properties is RSC 6, and the park and senior center are zoned AR. The current request is to rezone the property from AR agricultural to RMC6 residential multifamily conventional. This would allow development of up to maximum 29 dwelling units. The development would be subject to the RMC6 development standards and the Wamama Downtown Overlay District regulations. The property will be served by Hillsborough County Water and Sewer. To summarize the key findings from the staff report, staff has found the request to be compatible with nearby development patterns. The Planning Commission has found the proposed development to be consistent with the comprehensive plan. There are no objections from any reviewing agencies, and the staff has found the request to be approvable. With that, I'll conclude our presentation, and we respectfully request your recommendation for approval. We are available to answer any questions that you may have.
No questions at this time. I appreciate it. If you could please sign in.
Thank
Development
you.
Services, thank you. Good evening.
Good evening, Camille Proctor, Development Services. For standard rezone 230469, the applicant is requesting to rezone one 4.91 acre parcel zoned AR agricultural rural to RMC 6 residential multifamily conventional to allow the development of up to 29 townhomes. The site is located at the southwest corner of Bassett Street and North Street and is within the urban service area. The immediate area surrounding the property is a mix of rural agricultural, commercial, low to medium density residential. And directly to the east, the parcel zone PD 19-0093, a planned development residential community that was approved to allow for up to 674 single-family conventional detached dwellings. The subject property is also close proximity to Bethune Park. The future land use classification is residential 6. Currently, there are no restrictions from any other agencies or objections. Based on the stated considerations, including existing development patterns, staff finds the request approvable. This concludes my staff report, and I'm available for questions.
None at this time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Planning Commission.
Andrea Papandrew, Planning Commission staff. Site is in the residential 6 future land use category and is within the Wamama Village Community Plan and the South Shore Area-Wide Systems Plan. Site is in the urban service area where, according to Objective 1 of the future land use element, 80% of the county's growth is to be directed. Proposed rezoning for 29 units is consistent with Policy 1.2 on the minimum density requirements for all land use categories that allow 4 units per acre or greater in the urban service area. The proposed rezoning meets the intent of Policy 1.4 and the neighborhood protection policies under Objective 16 of the future land use element. Development pattern of the surrounding area shows several other residential uses with varying lot sizes. It is also compatible with the existing character of the development, as the development pattern to the north has parcels that are zoned residential multifamily conventional. The site also meets the intent of Goal 8, Goal 12, and Objective 12-1 under the community design component in the future land use element, which provides guidance on residential developments. The Wamama Village Community Plan establishes guidance on residential development, specifically Goal 5, which encourages housing to accommodate a diverse population and a range of incomes, and the proposed would allow for compatible multifamily development. Site is also within the South Shore Area-Wide Systems Plan and meets Goal 4, which seeks to maintain housing opportunities for all income groups. The proposed would add a variety of housing opportunities for the surrounding area. Planning Commission staff finds the proposed rezoning consistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone in the room or online that would like to speak in support? Anyone in favor? Seeing no one, anyone in opposition to this request? No one. Ms. Heinrich?
Nothing further, ma'am.
All right. Mr. Evans, anything else?
Nothing further.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate it. Then we'll close rezoning 23-0469 and go to the next case.
Our next application is item D1, PD rezoning 22-1390. The applicant is requesting to rezone property to PD. I reviewed this for planning growth or development services and will provide staff findings after the applicant.
All right.
This is yours.
Yep, that's it. And then show me arrows again.
How could you say that? Just hit that button.
This one?
Yep.
Good evening, Cammie Corbett with the law firm of Hill, Ward, and Henderson, 101 East Kennedy Boulevard, Suite 3700, and I have been sworn. I'm here representing the applicant, Metro Development. This is the Serrano subdivision that is located in South County. This is shows the location. We are east of 301 and we are north of 674. That's the Serrano subdivision to the south that you can see in that aerial. Next slide. Really basic site plan. We're a simple request. This is really one where the staff reports do speak for themselves. We are asking for 100 single-family dwelling units, either be detached or attached units, and we are not asking for any PD variations. There are 2 companion applications. We have a minor modification to the existing zoning to remove this property from the existing PD. And we also are modifying the DRI development order to remove the property from the DRI development order. However, those are not for your consideration this evening. Those are related applications that are traveling and will be heard by the Board of County Commissioners on August 8th, 2023. Key findings of staff, they've found us consistent and compatible, and I will let them provide their testimony regarding their consistency and compatibility during their presentations. And with that, I'd respectfully request your approval, unless you have any questions.
Not yet, but thank you. I appreciate it. Development Services.
Michelle Heinrich, Development Services. As you heard, this is a rezoning request for property currently zoned PD 89-0097, as most recently modified by PRS 23-0089, to a new PD to allow for 100 single-family units, which would be detached or attached. As you heard, because this site is removing acreage within an existing PD, a companion PRS is necessary and will be heard at the same BOCC land use meeting as this rezoning request, which is August 8th, 2023. Additionally, the site is within DRI number 194, known as DG Farms. An amendment to that DRI will also be a companion application to be heard at that BOCC land use meeting. Staff's review finds that the proposal is in keeping with the surrounding development, which is primarily residential at 2 to 4 units per acre. The project's proposed development standards are currently found within the existing PD and therefore do not raise any compatibility concerns. As you probably saw on the site plan that the applicant showed a moment ago, the western portion of the PD will remain undeveloped, as it would have under the current PD due to the presence of wetlands and significant wildlife habitat on that portion of the site. Access will remain internal to the existing PD, and no new perimeter access points to Westlake Drive are proposed. Additionally, our review found that the removal of this land from the PD will not impact the existing PD's development entitlements or create a density that exceeds the Res 4 future land use category within the area. A finding of consistency was filed by the Planning Commission, and no agencies objected to the request. Therefore, we do recommend approval subject to proposed conditions of approval, and I'm available if you have any questions.
Just wanted to put on the record the issue of the removal of the property from the DG Farms DRI, and that letter, there's a letter I saw in the file from Mr. Cohn regarding that, and that just to confirm that those entitlements that are assigned on the subject property through the DG Farms are not removed from DG Farms. It's just the acreage that's removed. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much.
They are not leaving or not taking anything with them. They're leaving everything as is.
Understood. All right. Thank you. Appreciate it. We'll go to the Planning Commission.
Andrea Pappendrew, Planning Commission staff. Site is in the residential 4 future land use category and is within the Greater Sun City Center Community Plan and South Shore Area-Wide Systems Plan. Subject site is mainly surrounded by private homeowner associations and single-family residential neighborhoods. Site is in the urban service area, and per objective 1 of the future land use element, 80% of the county's growth is to be directed. Policy 1.4 requires all new development to be compatible with the surrounding area. The proposed density in the residential 4 designation is compatible with the existing character of development in the area. Site is surrounded by the residential 4, Wamama Village residential 2, and residential 6 designations. Proposal is consistent with policy 1.2 on minimum density, and objective 13 and policy 13.3 in the future land use element, objective 3.5 in the environmental and sustainability section for environmental considerations. The site is less than 25% wetlands, and the proposed is indicated 7.25 acres of upland conservation area. The proposed meets the intent of Objective 16 in its policies. The proposal includes appropriate setbacks and buffers. Stormwater retention areas proposed serves as a buffer and protects the environmentally sensitive land on site. And the proposed density and lot sizes are reflective of the surrounding neighborhoods. The site is separated from West Lake by a parcel to the east, which is used as a public drop site for the Wamama Solid Waste Facility to the north. The development pattern and character of the area is mainly single-family residential and does meet Objective 12-1 and Policy 12-1.4 of the Community Design Component in the future land use element. The proposed maintains the existing densities of the Greater Sun City Center Area Community Plan, which is consistent with Goal 2 of the Community Plan. It's also consistent with Goal 5 and ensures preservation of wetlands and retains a significant amount of open space throughout the site, including upland conservation area and large retention ponds. And there were no applicable policies for the South Shore Air Wide Systems Plan. Planning Commission staff finds the proposed plan development consistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan, subject to conditions proposed by the Development Services Department.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Is there anyone in the room or online that would like to speak in support? Anyone in favor? Seeing no one. Anyone in opposition to this request? No one. Oh, yes, sir. While he's coming up, is there anyone else that would like to speak in opposition, either in the room or online? All right, seeing no one. Good evening, sir. If you can give us your name and address.
My name is Don Hampton. I live at 16692 Carlton Pond, Waimama. I noticed that this came up today. I don't know if they had any community meetings, or they don't have to have community meetings for this, but where I live at now, that's my main interest, Westlake and Crane Meadow, and the traffic is horrendous now. And now you're going to add all these additional homes, and I didn't see any plans as far as to expand it to a 4-lane highway. So I just said I'd be opposed to it because traffic is bad now, and this is going to add even additional more to it.
All right, thank you, sir, for your
Thank you.
testimony. If you could please sign in. All right, seeing no one else in opposition, we'll go back to Development Services.
Nothing further.
All right. Ms. Corbett, address the transportation question.
Yes.
Good evening.
Steve Henry, Links & Associates, 5023 West Laurel, Tampa, 33607. So we did do a detailed traffic analysis for the project. One is indicated we do not have access to Westlake Boulevard, Westlake Drive. Our access will be to the existing driveways that are currently on 674 and also on 301. And if you look at the staff report, both indicate that those roads operate at acceptable level of service. I'm also happy to enter into the record the 2002 level of service report, which also shows that those roadways operate at acceptable level of service.
So just to clarify for the gentleman, so the project is accessed through the existing Serrano subdivision?
Correct. DG Farms does not have access to Westlake, and we don't intend to provide access to Westlake for this particular project.
Understood. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Ms. Corbett, anything else?
No, issue is just so you're aware that we are, and there's a condition in there that we have to, based on the detailed analysis, have to extend the northbound right turn lane at Capestone and 301. So that is a condition of approval, and we're in agreement with that.
I see that. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Cami Corbett, for the record, yes, I did want him to make that, enter into the record that we are doing a transportation improvement with this project. And with that, we'd respectfully request your approval.
All right. Thank you so much. With that, we'll close rezoning 22-1390 and go to the next case.
Our next item is item D2, Major Mod Application 22-1639. The applicant is requesting a major modification to PD 91-0174. Sam Ball with Development Services will provide staff findings after the applicant's presentation.
All right. I understand the applicant is virtual. Is that correct?
No, Jamie Mayer representing the applicant with the law firm
Here you are.
Henderson. Yes, I am
Okay.
here.
Sorry.
No,
Go ahead.
no problem. Jamie Mayer of the law firm Hillward Henderson representing the applicant, 101 East Kennedy Boulevard, Suite 3700, and I have been sworn. This is a request for a major modification to an existing planned development. It is in the Little Manatee South area just off of US 301, and it is the subject of an approved RV park and campground. There are accessory uses such as kayaks, riding arena, and other support uses that are for the use of campers only. This is the Masonic Park and Youth Camp, and its surrounding area is predominantly, as you can see, agricultural and vacant land. There are some mobile home and other RV park uses, some other recreational and camping type uses, and some single family to the southwest. By way of background, this site has been operated by the Masonic Park entity since 1969. In fact, it's even included on the Little Manatee South Community Plan map in the comprehensive plan and is listed as a recreation use. During zoning conformance in 1991, the site was assigned a PD that recognized all of the existing uses. It did, however, limit the number of RV units to 36. And the site has operated with 120 spaces for decades. The board is it's a nonprofit organization with frequent board turnover, and so from board to board, the record keeping didn't necessarily track the PD approval. This current sitting board, however, received a code enforcement case from the county, which recognized the fact that 36 units were what were permitted, and so they swiftly rectified it and complied, but since that time, they've had to forgo a significant amount of revenue that they rely on because they've been operating with 120 spaces for so long. In addition, they've missed multiple winter camping seasons, and many campers who enjoy that park for many years have been unable to camp there now since 2020. These are some aerials just to show you what their historic operations looked like, a couple of snapshots in time from 1995 and 2020. And then as you can see, they complied with the code enforcement and are now complying with the current PD zoning site plan. These are from 2022 and 2023. You can see many vacant RV pads and not very many actual RV units. And so that is why this board is here to, or the applicant is here to request an increase in the density for the RV units from the approved 36 to 120. The density is available under the acreage, and the rest of the PD will not change. So as you can see on the left, the 1991 site plan from the zoning conformance, and on the right is the major modification site plan with the modification area in green. That is the area you just saw in those aerials in the southwest corner of the site. Again, the modification is a request to increase the density in that portion of the site, or the physical location of more RV units on that portion of the site. There's no modification to the actual overall layout, to the types of uses within the site, or the locations of individual uses within the site. I will, of course, let the Planning Commission staff report and speak for itself, but Planning Commission does find this request consistent and compatible with the area and with the applicable future land use and community plan areas. It promotes the goals of ecotourism and recreation and open space in the comprehensive plan and upholds the neighborhood protection policies as well. There is a variation request associated with the PD modification area. That is the buffer area between the RV park and Willow Road, which is just to the north of single-family uses. And so the request is to utilize the existing tree canopy and vegetation instead of a new type A buffer, and staff is in support of this request. You have findings of consistency and approvability from staff in their professional review of the applicant's materials. In addition, we've received over 90 letters of support from former and regular park guests. These are all in the record. Many of these people are community locals in Hillsborough County, but also out-of-state tourists who come to Florida to camp at Masonic Park. And many of these people have been unable to camp there since 2020 because of the adherence to the 36 units. I have a couple of housekeeping items. We worked with staff on some revised conditions, which I will be entering into the record, and I know staff is prepared to speak to those if necessary. And I would like to reserve my remaining time for rebuttal. Thank you.
Let me just ask you a question, and it has to do with those revisions to the conditions. They've given me a revised staff report which changes my data just a little bit, but the question is the same. It's zoning condition 2B that talks about a maximum of 63 campsites and now says 159 campers. It did say 163 previously. And so I note that that's an addition. Is that to the conditions as they stood from zoning conformance? Is that just a recognition that was never, you're just trying to get a number down and that's how many are there? Or is that new to the project?
So I think transportation and Michael Yates from Palm Traffic could speak to that more in detail. However, the reason is the trip generation, and the acreage. So that is the maximum number. If we're, the request is for 120 RV spaces. The zoning code allows 1 RV unit per acre, so that's using up 120 acres of the overall almost 200-acre site. The remaining acreage supports only a certain amount of campsites, and they can't exceed that number.
I see. So do you have any idea if that's reflective? Do you have any idea, well, first, how many campsites are there existing? Do you know?
I think the applicant would be best suited to speak to that.
That's fine. All right, but it's just a math exercise that you needed so many acres for the RV and the rest will be for campsites? That's how
Correct.
the numbers were derived?
Yes,
I see. Okay, thank you so much. Did you have anything else from the applicant?
We respectfully request your recommendation of approval.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate it. We'll go to Development Services. Good evening.
Good evening, Sam Ball, Hillsborough County Development Services. As I said, the revised report was filed. It's in the record. The applicant is requesting a major modification to PD 910174 to allow an existing RV park and campground to increase the number of RV spaces from 36 to 120. The property is located at the eastern corner of 301 and Willow Road intersection and covers 199.9 acres. The property is developed as a campground and RV park. The application includes a request from variation LDC 60604 for off-street vehicular use area buffer requirements. The surrounding zoning and development pattern consists of AR, AS1, CG, and planned development districts. The property abuts US 301 to the north. The properties to the north are developed for a mobile home park, a outdoor recreation and lodging business, and the Little Manatee River State Park. The abutting property to the south is owned by the county and is zoned AR and is also vacant. The properties are located across the Little Manatee River to the east, include an undeveloped PD that is approved for up to 42 single-family dwellings and vacant lands that are zoned AR. The Willow Road right-of-way is located to the west of the subject property, and the properties to the west of Willow Road are zoned CG and AS1. The uses include an auto repair business, communications tower, vacant land, open storage, and an outdoor recreational facility. The properties opposite of the Little Manatee River to the east included the abutting property, the CG is currently developed for retail. If major modification 221639 is approved, the property would be allowed to be developed for up to 120 RV spaces, and campgrounds would be limited to 63 campsites and then with up to 159 campers. The applicant's variation from the vehicular use area and buffer screening requirements would allow the existing vegetation to screen and buffer the RV park instead. The property would be limited to 1 vehicular access connection to US 301 and 1 emergency access to Willow Road. The emergency access would be gated and locked with a Knox box or similar type of some system accessible to fire marshal. Based on the amount of dense natural vegetation that would serve as the required perimeter buffer and screening, which would effectively seclude the RV use from the public right-of-way and the neighboring properties. Staff supports the proposed variation from LDC section 60604 for off-street vehicular use area buffering and screening requirements. Based on the proposed site configuration and adjacent zoning and uses, which include a significant amount of recreational use, staff finds the proposed modification to 910174 compatible with the existing zoning districts and development pattern area. Based on staff recommends approval of request subject to conditions. That concludes my presentation, if you have any questions.
I do, just one, and that is, I see that in your compatibility section, that analysis that the existing vegetation mitigates the requirement for the buffering and screening, but I wondered, what is the actual requirement? What are they required to provide in terms of buffering and screening?
There's a planting requirement. It's basically, I believe it's 8 feet, and then they have the number of plantings that are supposed to be installed in between the
So the width of the buffer is 8 feet?
The vehicular use area buffer would be 8 feet.
And then they associated their screening in that section that defines that?
Correct.
And so they're proposing not to adhere to any of it due to that existing vegetation?
That is correct.
Okay, that was my question. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, Planning Commission.
Andrea Papandrew, Planning Commission staff. Site is in the agricultural rural 1/5 future land use category and is within the Little Manatee South Community Plan, the South Shore Area-Wide Systems Plan. Site is in the rural area, which is intended for long-term agricultural uses and large lot, low residential, rural residential uses, neighborhood commercial and office. Residential 1 is to the north, southeast, and southwest. To the north, northeast, east, and south is natural preservation. Further northeast is the Wama Village Residential 2. Applicant is proposing to expand the number of RV parks, which is consistent with the rural character intended for the rural area and typical uses found in the future land use category. The proposed 120 RVs is below the maximum density possible, and wetlands make up less than 25% of the site's acreage. Proposal is consistent with Objective 8, Policy 8.1, and Policy 13.3. The proposer zoning meets the intent of Objective 16 in its policies relating to neighborhood protection. As stated, the applicant is requesting a variation from the buffering and screening requirements to utilize the existing tree canopy and vegetation along Willow Road. Site is surrounded by existing recreational uses, conservation land like commercial and single family. Policy 12-1.4, the community design component, discusses how new development shall be compatible with the established character of the surrounding area. Stated previously, the proposed rezoning is consistent with this policy due to the rural development pattern. Site meets the intent of the Little Manatee South Community Plan and the South Shore Area-Wide Systems Plan, as recreational programming, preservation of natural areas, and tourism are identified as goals, and the proposed improvements will expand the opportunity for ecotourism. Proposal is consistent with Objective 4 and Policies 1.4.7 and 1.4.8 of the Recreation Open Space section of the Comprehensive Plan. As the increase in RV spaces will promote ecotourism and allow for the continuation of programming in the Masonic Park and Youth Camp. Based upon the above considerations, Planning Commission staff finds the proposed major modification consistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan, subject to conditions proposed by the County Development Services Department.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Is there anyone in the room or online that would like to speak in support? Yes. How many people? I see 2, 3. And are you in support? Yes. Okay. So 3 people, 4 in support. All right. Just hold on one second. Is there anyone online that would like to speak?
I just want to confirm we have a a Michael Alfieri. I just want to make sure that he signed up for the applicant team.
Is he on your team?
You mean Matthew Norman?
Yes, he's
Sorry
a part of
about
the
that,
applicant's team.
Yes, I'm part of the applicant team.
All right, so no one online to speak in support. So we have 4 in the room, so 15 minutes. We'll just do 4 minutes apiece. We'll divide it as evenly as we can, Michael. And whoever would like to go for first, please come up. If you could line up, go ahead and stand up and line up. It makes it move a little faster. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for the time you've given us. My name is Mary Brigham. My address is 18050 South US 301, Waimama. I'm here to speak on behalf of our RV campers. The Masonic Park, as you've heard, has been open for over 50 years, established in 1969, and started allowing Masonic campers to camp in the early 1970s. During that time and until now, we have provided thousands of Masonic families and their guests camping accommodations. They have made many friendships, longtime friends. They are currently unable to see these friends because of our zoning restrictions. During the past 2 years, 75% of our campers who normally come see us in the winter at our campground have been unable to come back since we've been only allowed 36 campers. They come from all over the U.S. and the world: Tennessee, Missouri, Alabama, Vermont, New York, Maine, Massachusetts, Iowa, North and South Carolina, just to name a few, and come from as far away as Canada and Germany. Most of these campers come back each year to enjoy the wonderful weather here in Florida. Now they're either staying at their homes in the cold upper north or making temporary reservations at other campgrounds around the state, which are more expensive than we are. Not being able to come to our campground has caused many family hardships, mostly financial, by the higher cost of camping, or by having to keep their homes open and heated during the winter months. Most of these campers who normally come to the campground are senior citizens and have trouble living in the cold weather. The campers who come to see us regularly spend money in the economy. Being in the Waimama Sun City area for 3 months, each year they spend thousands of dollars on groceries, dinners out, shopping trips, local tourist attractions. They're helping our neighbors as we try to help them. Over the years, at least 1 or 2 campers have also gone out and purchased brand new campers from local businesses in the rising costs of thousands of dollars. The increase in the number of camping sites from 36 to the request of 120 will help the campers who are wanting to come back to our campground and also helping our local businesses. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for coming down. I appreciate it. If you could please sign in. Next, please. Good evening.
My name is Rena Tabak, and I live at 4812 Baycrest Drive, Tampa, Florida, 33615. I stand before you this evening in support of the proposed rezoning of the Masonic Youth and RV Park in Waimama. If any of you have ever gone camping, then you already know the wonderful memories that it can create and the feeling of togetherness that it can bring families and friends. As avid campers, my husband and I both know the joy it brings us when we set out on our RV adventures with our daughter. With your approval of the rezoning, you are allowing families the opportunity to embark on unique adventures and experiences, allowing them to enjoy happiness and excitement that they see in their children's eyes as they get to experience the great outdoors for the first time, and allowing them to explore the true Florida nature and breathe the fresh air. RV camping has long been cherished as an avenue for building lifelong memories, and by approving this rezoning, you will allow families to spur that sense of adventure that is in all children and encourage their curiosity in the nature world around them. As I am sure you're all aware, we live in a fast-paced world where electronics rule our time, but providing these families with additional RV spaces, you would be allowing more families a chance to disconnect from their daily routines and cell phones and connect with both nature and each other. The Masonic Park can be a place where families can engage in outdoor activities, sharing meals around a campfire, and exploring the trails of old Florida, creating memories that will last a lifetime. With your approval of this rezoning, you are also saying yes to the improved health and well-being of children. We've all heard studies how spending time outdoors improves our physical health and can reduce our stress levels. And with your approval, you're encouraging the families to embrace these opportunities and enjoy the opportunities that the Masonic Youth and RV Park can provide for them. In conclusion, with your approval of rezoning the additional RV sites, the Masonic Park will continue to remain a family destination, one that prioritizes the happiness and the well-being of children, along with their wonderful family, memories that are waiting to be made. By creating an environment conducive to adventure, family togetherness, and outdoor exploration, we can give them the opportunity to grow, learn, and create cherished memories that will last a lifetime. Let's all come together and support this rezoning proposal, knowing that we are investing in the future of our children and nurturing a generation that appreciates all the wonders of the natural world. Thank you.
Thanks for coming down. I appreciate it. Please sign in. Next, please. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Catherine Burgess. I live at 16629 Goose Ribbon Place, Waimama, Florida, 33598. I've been camping at Masonic Youth Camp, Waimama, for the past 9 years. I've been camping with not only family and friends, but I also camp alongside of a Boy Scout and a Cub Scout pack. During my time at Masonic, I've never been disturbed by the RV lot rentals. I really didn't even notice them because they have a barrier separating the camping and conservation areas. As a person who frequently enjoys the outdoors, I personally find Masonic to not only be an eco-friendly place, but also a safe place to camp with youth, which is becoming harder and harder to find in our area. As an adult leader, I'm limited on where we can take our youth to participate in overnight campouts. Masonic has one of 2 camping locations in our local area that not only meet the safety requirements, but also have enough space to accommodate our growing youth. Throughout the past years, my unit has been welcome at this park for not only camping, but to conduct a wide variety of outdoor activities such as hiking, geocaching, insect and reptile studies, kayaking, canoeing, fishing, and swimming activities. Masonic has hosted Eagle Scout Court of Honors for several of our former scouts and continues to host scouting ceremonies for multiple packs and troops in our district. As a member of Boy Scouts America Council, our district has hosted several leadership programs at Masonic for not only youth but also adult. The leadership programs have included outdoor cooking lessons, swimming and rescue training, Scoutmaster training, and conservation awareness training. As an active member of our community, Masonic continues to open its gate and offer free and reduced activities to the community that include an annual haunted house and Christmas light trails, regardless of their financial capabilities. These events have become something enjoyable and affordable for large families in our surrounding area. I cannot speak to Masonic's financial status, but as a member of this, and I'm not a member of this lodge, but as someone who frequently visits the park, I have noticed a decline in repairs and maintenance, which I believe are due to the reduced revenue. To help with this matter, I've worked alongside of several members of my unit and Masonic volunteers to try to maintain the property. However, as a nonprofit organization ourselves, we are only able to contribute in man hours and do not have enough money to help maintain this large site. With prices increasing steadily, growing around us, I fear that if Masonic is not able to recoup the lost funds that the RV rentals, that our community might lose, this youth camp, which has become a staple of not only my life, of as many others in our surrounding area. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your testimony. If you could please sign in. And one more, I believe, correct? Do we have one more person that wanted to speak? No. All right, that's it. Then we'll close testimony and support. Is there anyone who wanted to speak in opposition? All right, while you're coming up, is there anyone else in the room or online that would like to speak in opposition? Seeing no one. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. As I sit here tonight and I watch these meetings all the time, and they talk about the environment and the ecosystem and no place to camp and no place to park. If we keep building, there's not going to be a place to park or camp.
Sir, excuse me, can you give me your name and address to start?
I'm sorry,
please?
John Hooker, 8621 North Willow Avenue.
Thank you.
Here in Tampa, although I live there, I'm a 6th generation Floridian, and I've been coming to this Waimama area since I was 10 years old, 65, and I've seen it grow and grow and grow. I've have a lot of experience there with a lot of friends, clients. My dad and I used to farm in that area. I'd like to start, there's a couple of things, a couple of areas I'd like to make you aware of.
There you go. And if you want, you can bring that microphone over to you.
Yes,
It
all right.
moves.
I can just stand here.
Perfect.
First of all, the objections that you received, I adopt those, okay, without going into a lot of the detail. But I'd like to explain the history of the Masonic Park. In 1969, the lodges in Hillsborough County got together and acquired the property there. for the purpose of a youth camp, and it's set out here in the purpose that I brought with me in their bylaws. It was a noble idea. It was a camp for Masonic youth, and Masonic families. There's nothing in the bylaws, past or current, that says anything about recreational vehicles. Now, in terms of Masonic youth, as of this weekend, there's less than 36 Masonic youth in Hillsborough County. There's approximately 2,400 Masons in Hillsborough County, and about 1,800 live in Hillsborough County. The rest live out of state or they live in other counties. Masonic Park is an 80-mile round trip from right here down to the Masonic Park. Okay? There's been less than 10 days that the Masons, as a group, as a lodge, have had any functions at the Masonic Park. That includes the youth, who've had none in the last year or so, and the lodges. Now, I just point this out so you kind of get an understanding of where it is. The Masonic Park and Youth Camp was organized as a 501c3 corporation to receive its funding for the park from donations, not unrelated business income. It's a tax thing. It's a subsidiary corporation of the 14 Masonic lodges in Hillsborough County. In 1991, Wild Mama, or Willow Road, was out of sight and out of mind. There was no zoning there. In 1991 is when Planning Commission and County Commission got together and said, we need to start classifying the property down there. And so they classified, because they had some RVs there, I think 24 at the time. They had started adding them one at a time here and there. And for income, in 1991, the Masonic Park requested 50, but the County Commission said, no, we're concerned about septic tanks and the environment. And they said, you can have 36. That's 1991. Well, between 1991 and today, they added, without permission, without permitting, over 100. Okay? Now they want to come in through the back door, say, oh, we should have 120. When in 1991, the County Commission, in all their wisdom, said, no, the septic tanks and the environment we need to protect. It should be res judicata.
So you've got about 8.5 minutes left.
Good, thank you. I'm glad you reminded me because I get going sometimes. Now, in addition to adding all of these RV sites and all of these septic tanks, It's morphed into not an RV park, but a mobile home park. Because 75 to 80% of the people there have been there from more than a year and up to 10 years. Now, I say this, I'm a Mason, and I was a secretary of the board of directors for 7 years. But I have to be honest about it. We have to be honest. That's what Masons are. They're good citizens. Now, I want to show you if this will show up. Is that upside down?
Oh, that's right.
If you'll take a look at where the Masonic Park is, and you see it's outlined in red, now look to the northwest. The Little Manatee River borders that northeast corner of the Masonic Park. That's why it's a wiggly line. And it goes across 301 and curves around to the left and eventually winds up in Ruskin. If you follow back to the southeast, it winds back around, winds back up at Fort Lonesome. Okay? Now, the point of this picture here is, if you look across 301, there's about 40 acres there that, and Sam Ball said that Little Manatee State Park owns it. I was told that the county bought it under the ELAP program, but they bought that 40 acres just recently on the, let me see if that's the northeast side. There's a bunch of trees. There's 200 acres there that Swiftmud owns, but Hillsborough County, under an agreement, manages. It's a conservation area. Across the street's a conservation area. And all the way, if you follow the river, is the Little Manatee State Park, which is a conservation area. Now, if you go southeast, okay, and follow the river, you'll see, and maybe I can point it out here for you. Let me see here, right here. Okay, you see that bare property right here? It looks kind of bare. It's Kogan grass. But the county recently, in the last year, planted pine trees there. There's about, I say, 400 acres that run and parallels the river and is contiguous to the Masonic Park. All right, now, the point I'm making here is that there is an ecological corridor, and from Willow Road over to Sappho Road, which is the next road over, it's a drain field, all going toward the Little Manatee River. And that whole corridor there is a wildlife corridor, okay? And as everything's grown up, you see all around there, wildlife hasn't had any place to go. They don't have a home. They don't have anybody to speak for them. I'll speak for them. All right? Now.
About 3.5 minutes.
Okay, I'll finish. Here's another picture, and you got the surroundings. Now, I want to show you this picture. If you follow the orange line down to at the bottom, you see that orange. You see a blue line over on the right-hand side, and you come down and it's orange, and then it makes a dog leg. All right, what that is the cross-country greenway proposed. I want you to take judicial notice of Florida Statute 260 and the legislation that was just passed and the governor signed about greenways and hiking trails and the policy of Florida. All right. Now that's orange because it hasn't been funded yet. The blue has been funded. Now, where that dog legs, right there, that goes right through the Masonic Park. Okay? In case I didn't mention it, the future land use for the Masonic Park is AR. It's AR. Now, in this particular map, you're going to see, sorry, I thought I was talking loud enough, getting a little hoarse. You'll see kind of a triangular yellow or orange box down at the bottom. My words may be covering that up. There it is. You see where it kind of makes a box down at the bottom? Okay, that's still, in that long orange line is the cross-country greenway. That line runs along the easement of the old railroad line that came from around Fishhawk, and it runs all the way down to Parrish. The plan is to make that a greenway. In addition, that box is the green part of the greenway. Okay?
Last minute.
Okay.
1 minute.
And it runs right through the middle of the Masonic Park. These are the plans. This is what's planned in the near future. Very quickly here. In September, the United States Congress passed legislation to put the Little Manatee River under the control of the National Park Service. That's passed. The President signed it. It's being studied right now. And I'll ask you to take judicial notice of the articles and the legislation. There's another one.
That's the end of your time.
Yeah.
You're welcome to submit
All right.
your documents into the record, and I can review them.
Didn't have time to talk about these.
All right, you
But
can
the
submit
language-
whatever you'd like.
Pardon me?
You can submit whatever you'd like into the
Okay.
record with the clerk, and
But-
it'll be a
but-
part of the
But
record.
the language, and I'd like to just say this to the legal staff, you need to be a little clearer in your language about what a youth camp is.
Sir,
And who the-
you have gone past the 15
Okay.
minutes allotted. I really appreciate your
All right.
testimony. Thank you
I'll-
so much.
I'll-
If you could please sign in. Thank you very much. Now, seeing no one else in opposition, we'll go, yes,
Madam Zoning Hearing Master, can I make a correction to my testimony?
of course.
I'd just like to, Andrew Papandrew, Planning Commission staff. This Planning Commission staff report, there is a section where it refers to the site in the residential 1 future land use category. I'd just like to clarify that it is in the agricultural rural 1/5 future land use category, and the intent of that area is for areas of long-term agricultural character or those areas involved in agricultural productivity or other rural uses. I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
I appreciate that, putting it on the record. Thank you so much. All right, so we've closed opposition testimony. We'll go back to Development Services. Ms. Heinrich.
No further comments.
All right, then Ms. Corbett, time for a rebuttal. Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Meyer, time for a rebuttal. You have 5 minutes. I'll give you a little bit more if you'd like to address the gentleman's issues.
Thank you, Jamie Mayer, for the record. Yes, and I think we did reserve a little extra time, but I don't think we'll need all of it. I would just like to say that much of what you've heard is not relevant to the PD or the major modification request before you. I would like Mike Alfieri of Water Science Associates to briefly address the septic question, because we did take a look at that out of concern for the environmental issues or potential for that. And I would also like my client to be able to address some of the things that were said, although again, not relevant to this request, but to have a chance to address some of those comments. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Alfieri.
Yeah, thank you. We did, on behalf of Bill Ward Henderson, evaluate the hydrogeology of the site itself and the septic system. We had a site visit, including an interview with operating staff. Based on the analysis that we had, we went in and used the Southwest Florida Water Management District's district-wide regulatory model, version 4, which is the most recent peer-reviewed groundwater flow model that the district operates. And to evaluate the use of septic systems, it was simulated as an injection into the system. In other words, we're applying water to the system. The result of that is what's referred to as a groundwater mound. So what we did is we used this mound and a model called ModPath, which is essentially if you put a drop of dye in water and measure the flow as it goes out. That's what this program does. So we had this injection and a release of these particles that flow along with the groundwater, similar to what would be going on in a septic system. And the results that we saw were that the extent of flow from the septic system, based on the projected use, a 1 year, a 5 year, and 10 year projection, 1 year wasn't much movement at all. You're still very close to the leach fields. They have 2 of them, 2 septic systems. And by 5 years, it's a little bit further out. By 10 years, you're almost at the property boundary to the northwest. So any off-site impacts from septic are, from a professional opinion, are moot. These systems are designed for breakdown of the coliform as well as nitrogen and phosphorus. And it's based on discussions we've had with operating staff. They're even planning on putting in an update to their system to make it even better. So this thing's been in operation for decades.
Mike.
I do not see as a professional any impacts that are going on from this operation. And that's all I got.
Thank you.
Yep.
And now I would like the client to come up and speak, the applicant to speak to some of the issues, again, that are not relevant, but we would like him to have a chance to respond. And I would ask for a few, as you mentioned, a few additional minutes of time since we had some extra time in our presentation. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I appreciate it. Good evening.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Eric Beda. I reside at 4214 Sandy Shores Drive in Lutz, Florida. I actually prepared a 4-minute and 59-second rebuttal. My wife toned it down, but it's difficult to do that after a 15-minute opposition. So I want to just summarize 2 or 3 important things that were just said, especially since they come from a former suspended attorney and a former member of our board who created some of the very problems that he's discussing. And this is why he was removed from the board for conduct detrimental to the park. The fact is, our bylaws aren't relative to this, except that they don't say Masonic youth. They say young men and women, young people. And every provision that it talks about who we are there to help, it doesn't say just Masonic youth. So that's an untruth. As to the septic and what they're talking about water quality, yes, the septic systems are working great, but we just entered into contract negotiations with Septic to install a state-of-the-art $350,000, 8,500-gallon processing system so that we continue to be the good stewards of the environment that we have been. Some of the negative comments that you just heard, the entire board is here. The board of directors is here in support of this. It's unfair to them because we spent the last 3 years trying to do everything right, trying to fix the errors of the past. We shouldn't have had 120 RV sites to begin with, but we had them for 40 years, right? We went back to what we were supposed to. 10 years later, the board has completely turned over, nobody knows, and we're back to 120. And we use those revenues to protect the park. Just last week, we received an $11 million offer from Meritage Homes. And unanimously, the board of directors sitting here rejected it because we want to maintain that fraternal legacy. We want to do the things that Katie talked about for the Scouts, not just Masonic youth. And we do support Masonic youth organizations, for Shriners Children's Hospitals, Metropolitan Ministries. The only reason we're here tonight is not to have 120 RV sites. It's so that we have the revenues we need so that we don't lose the park. Because if we lose the park, a Meritage Homes is going to develop it. And they'll fight and spend whatever money they got to spend to make that happen. We'd like to be stewards for the next 60 years. As far as the RVs impacting the river, the closest RV to the Little Manatee River is half a mile away. And as far as, you know, detrimental wildlife, there's 150 acres that we haven't touched. In 60 years, we haven't touched. That was my 5-minute rebuttal. Thank you.
Thank you so much. If you could please sign in.
And ma'am, you had one question that I'd like to address. We currently have 7 Boy Scout cabins or cabins for overnight campers. They have 18 per. We can have 18 kids in each one. And there are about half a dozen campsites around the perimeter of the property that are ideal for outdoor camping because they have the appropriate fire rings, et cetera. So 6 campsites, 7 cabins times 18 kids, and we're well under the 163.
Thank you for that clarification. If you could please sign in with the clerk's office, sir. All right. Does that complete your rebuttal testimony?
It does, thank you.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Then with that, we'll close major modification 22-1639 and go to the next case.
Our next item is item D3, PD rezoning 22-1701. The applicant is requesting to rezone the property to PD. Chris Greenlenard with Development Services will provide staff findings after the applicant's presentation.
All right. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Colin Rice with the law firm of Older Lundy, here on behalf of the applicant, Oaks of Plant City. I'll put some visuals on the overhead for you.
Absolutely.
Oh, and my address for the record is 1000 West Cass.
Thank you.
All right. So we're here this evening to request rezoning from RSC4 and ASC1 to planned development to allow for the addition of 9 mobile home units on approximately 3.7 acres. There's 1 structure existing that will remain for a total of 10 units on the property. To orient you, we're in the eastern Hillsborough County near the Plant City limits, north of I-4 and Thonotosasa Road, south of West Sam Allen Road. Zooming in, this project is proposed to the north of existing mobile homes. Future land use designation here is R4, and the 10 total units are within the maximum allowable density. The zoning to the east, west, and north is ASC1. To the south is RSC4. The 50-acre tract to the north is vacant and owned by Hillsborough County. All other adjacent uses are single-family residential. So this is an image from the end of Hall Road facing north depicting the site. As you can see, it's underutilized acreage, vacant, and abutting a wetland area. Now showing you the site plan, I'll move it up. Through a number of productive discussions with staff, this project has evolved somewhat to accommodate some unique site characteristics. At the northeast corner of the site, you'll find a T turnaround here, largely designed this way to minimize impacts to the wetland system that is present on the northeast portion of the site. The EPC has already reviewed and authorizes the wetland impacts and the final mitigation proposal. I've got a copy of that approval I'll submit to the record as well. In total, there will be 0.34 total acres of impact, and the required wetland setbacks are already accounted for on the site plan. It's a separate county requirement, but those are accounted for. 8 of the units are here along the northwest, furthest from the wetland area. And then 1 more mobile home unit here to the southeast, and then here's the existing structure to remain for a total of 10. The 10 units are consistent with future land use element policy 13.3 and applying the environmentally sensitive land credit as well. So we are seeking just one waiver this evening. Section 6.0106.1 of the code. Strictly speaking, septic is not permitted for multifamily uses per the land development code. This provision makes sense in a vacuum. You wouldn't want that for an apartment complex, for example, but this is a little bit different in that these are only multifamily in that there are more than 3 units per zoning lot, but they really function more like single-family residential.
So let me stop you.
Sure.
I think that's the crux of this, is that's one lot, and so it's over 3 units, and so that's what triggers the multifamily.
It's 3 folios. It is 9 units, but the bulk of the units are on 1 folio, so it is more than 3 on 1 folio number. So it's correct if you're reading the code strictly. But as I'll get to, staff is in support of this waiver as well. So
Because it is a mobile home.
Exactly. I'll contextualize it.
Understood.
I don't know if I can zoom, but if you can see here, we've got our site outlined in yellow. This is the Plant City jurisdictional line. We're less than 800 feet from Plant City, so while we are within the rural area, we're quite close to municipality. The effect of a strict application of this section of the code, from which we're seeking a waiver, is that it'd be virtually impossible to have mobile home communities within the rural area. And they are prevalent, some of them historic, but a requirement to connect strictly to public utilities would be cost prohibitive for most of these projects. So we think it's appropriate in this case. And again, we're grateful to have staff's concurrence or no objection to this waiver request. And we're also proud to have earned the support of Hillsborough County staff, Planning Commission staff, and the Environmental Protection Commission. And with that, we will conclude. We appreciate your time this evening. I know it's been a late one, so with that, I will close, respectfully request your approval. We think this is an appropriate site available for any questions.
No, that was my only question.
Okay,
Thank you
thank
so
you.
much. I appreciate it. If you could please
And I'll
sign
submit
it.
these to the record.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Development Services.
Good evening again. Chris Gralinar, Development Services, planner with Development Services. I'm here to present PD application 22-1701. The applicant is proposing to rezone from existing RSC4 and ASC1 to PD, PD 22-1701. The approximate 3.68 acre property is comprised of 3 parcels. Folio 82001 is zoned RSC4 with a single family home. Folio 82002 is a vacant right-of-way zoned ASC1. Folio 82003 is a vacant lot zoned ASC1. The subject property is located in the general location of 800 feet north of intersection of Bonnie Road and the Nonasassa Road. The applicant proposes to develop 9 mobile homes and leave 1 existing single-family residence for a total of 10 dwelling units on the site. The area consists of single-family residential, mobile homes, and agricultural uses. The project's minimum setbacks would be 10 feet to the north, south, east, and west. The maximum building height would be 35 feet or 1 story. The project would be limited to a maximum of 10 residential units for the 3.68 acres, which is the maximum allowed by the property's designated future land use of residential 4. The applicant is requesting relief from Land Development Code Section 6.01.06.1. No multiple family unit shall use septic tanks. In summary, the applicant's justification for the waiver is mobile home communities are not a typical multifamily use, and strict application of the regulation would prohibit mobile home communities, which is a form of attainable housing outside of the urban service area. Staff does not object to the requested waiver, and it notes that the mobile home parks are not an atypical use in areas, in rural areas, quite common, including the existing mobile home park to the south, which is also served by septic. The subject property is designated R4 on the future land use map. The Planning Commission finds the proposed use consistent with a comprehensive plan. The surrounding uses are similar to the request, low-density residential. Therefore, the rezoning of the subject parcel from RSC4 and ASC1 to PD with the mobile home park use would be consistent with the existing zoning pattern of the area. Based on the residential 4 use, residential 4 future land use classification, the surrounding zoning and development pattern, and the proposed uses for the planned development district, staff finds the request approvable, subject to proposed conditions. That concludes my staff report. If any questions, I'm glad to answer.
No questions at this time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Planning Commission.
Andrea Pappendrew, Planning Commission staff. Site is in the residential 4 future land use category. It is not located within a community plan. The site is in the rural area, which is intended for long-term agricultural uses and large lot, low-density rural residential uses. Though the site is in the rural area, it is also residential for the future land use map and is intended for residential, suburban scale neighborhood commercial, office uses, and multi-purpose projects. The proposed density of 10 dwelling units is compatible with existing character of development, as there's an existing mobile home park directly adjacent south of the site. The site is surrounded by the residential 1 and residential 4 future land use designations. The area mainly contains agricultural and low-density residential uses, and the proposed development will allow the area to remain rural in character. The proposal is also consistent with policy 13.3 for the environmentally sensitive land credit, and the associated policies in objective 3.5 of the environmental and sustainability section of the comprehensive plan. The proposed rezoning meets the intent of objective 16 and its policies in the future land use element. The proposal includes appropriate setbacks and buffers. The proposed wetland conservation area and stormwater retention pond on the east side of the development serves as a buffer from the existing single-family properties and protects the environmentally sensitive land on site. The proposed density and lot sizes are reflective of the mobile home park to the south. And the site proposes to extend Hall Road and shows an efficient system of internal circulation with a potential future connection at the north end of the site. The site also meets Objective 12-1 and Policy 12-1.4 of the Community Design Component, with new development being compatible with established character of the surrounding area. And the development pattern mainly contains agricultural uses, mobile homes, and single-family residential. Based on this, Planning Commission staff finds the proposed plan development consistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan, subject to conditions proposed by the Development Services Department.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Is there anyone in the room or online that would like to speak in support? Anyone in favor? All right, seeing no one. Anyone in opposition to this request? Opposition? Yes. All right, while she's coming up, is there anyone else either in the room or online that would like to speak in opposition? All right, seeing no one.
First of all,
good evening.
I need to apologize for my attire. I didn't expect to be speaking.
Not a problem. We're glad you're here.
And
Could
I
you
don't
give
have
us?
any pictures. Can I use your map with the pictures? Oh, okay. You can pull it up.
Could you give us your name and address,
My
please?
name is Patricia McAtee, and I live and own at 3102 Thonotosassa Road. I am the property adjacent 6 acres.
Okay.
From Thonotosassa Road back to the preserve. I am the property that has a pond out there. It's not a retention pond, it's a pond. It's got its own little spring and everything. And it's my pond that's gonna be flooded if we develop more stuff over there, okay? I already have flooding problems where I am. I don't have any problem at all with the trailer park. I get along with 80% of the trailer park people that are there now, and they're wonderful, okay? They respect what we do, they respect our privacy, and everything's fine. The proposal is to put 8 units that will back right up 10 feet from my pond, okay? That's not workable for me. I bought 6 acres out here at 73 years old so I could have some privacy. And I was under the belief that the preserve wrapped all the way around, but now I find out that it hasn't. I don't want to put a stop to development, but I would like to have some requirements, okay? If they want to put mobile homes that close to my property, because I mean, it's 15 feet from the property line to where the pond is. If they want to build a 6 or 8 foot wall, solid block wall that they're going to take care of, the gentleman now doesn't take care of the property at all, and our chain link fence is knocked down in about 5 different places from his trees collapsing down on them. I have horses out there. That's what I use the pond for. If they put septic tanks and everything and keep flooding my pond, I'm not going to be able to use it for my animals, So, I'm not here to say, no more trailer parks. Though I really wish you could move them to the other side of the property.
Ma'am, yeah, just speak this way
Oh,
towards me.
if you could move them to the other side of the property or build a wall so they're not looking right on, on our property there. We use it for picnics, we use it for volunteer work, we use it for all kinds of things. And this all kind of came out of the blue. So I would appreciate any help that you could give the little landowner that I didn't know I could have pictures and everything, or I would have brought pictures. But if we could work out some agreement, I will not fuss about you putting more trailers over there. If we can't work out an agreement to have some kind of privacy block and to make sure the flooding is taken care of, then I'm not going to be a pleasant neighbor anymore. And, I hate to go there because I get along with all those people really nice, What I don't want is a little, like an apartment complex of trailers, all lined up in a row right on my property.
Understood.
Okay? So I appreciate you letting me speak, and any help I would love to have.
Thank you for coming down. I appreciate it. Could you please sign in right
Yes.
here with the clerk's office? Thank you so much. All right. Seeing no one else in opposition, we'll go back to Development Services. Anything further?
No, ma'am.
All right. Then we'll go back to the applicant. Mr. Rice, you have 5 minutes for rebuttal.
Good evening, Colin Rice again for the applicant. I'll start by offering up that, of course, all of these applications are publicly noticed. There's a sign posted, there are letters that went out. I actually did have conversations with neighbors until 5 minutes ago. We weren't aware of any opposition to this project. I wasn't under oath. So to that end, unfortunately, we're a little bit late in the game to be starting to think about moving this project around, particularly because we've got our EPC approval dependent specifically on the eastward bias of these units to protect that wetland system. It's the minimal impact that we possibly could have had for that wetland system. So frankly, to that end, the basis for an approval here must be based on competent substantial evidence. I'll address the stormwater comments. Will be required at site development to accommodate all stormwater on site. That is part of the plan, and it's part of every one of these processes. So per code, we can't be pushing stormwater to other properties. I mean, to the extent that there are any maintenance concerns, I mean, it's uninhabited now. There will be residents living there once this is developed.
Could you discuss the permitting process of the septic tanks if the waiver is approved? What requirements that those will have to meet in terms of the health department permitting standards for a permit?
I know that it will go through Hillsborough County's permitting portal, and it will be reviewed by Hillsborough County. They obviously won't permit any development of the site until the septic is approved. I can't speak specifically. That's not necessarily my discipline to address how the septic will work, but I know that nothing will be installed unless the county approves of it.
Okay.
So with that, I'll just offer again that we have consistent across the board support from all agencies reviewing. We have competent substantial evidence in the record for support. And we're just at a stage in the process where we need to proceed. So I appreciate your time and attention this evening.
All right, thank you so much. I appreciate it. With that, we'll close rezoning 22-1701 and go to the last case.
Our next item is item D4, PD application 23-0041. This is a rezoning to planned development. I've reviewed this for development services and will provide staff findings after the applicant's presentation.
Good evening.
Good evening, Cammie Corbett again, Hill Ward Henderson, 101 East Kennedy Boulevard, Suite 3700. I do want to say that one of our team members has not been sworn, so if we could go ahead and take care of that, I'd appreciate
Absolutely.
it.
If there's anyone in the room that or online that plans to testify and has not been sworn, if you could please stand, raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do. Thank you so much.
Great,
Go
thank
ahead.
you. We're excited to be here tonight. This is a big project that we've been working on, and it's been long-term in the making with the Waimama Community Plan updates and the revised regulations. And I'd like to have Isabel Albert come up and present to you the site plan and talk to you a little bit about the process.
Okay. Good evening.
Thank you. Good evening. Isabel Albert with Half Associates, 1000 North Ashley Drive, Suite 900. So I'm here to talk to you about the changes of the Waimama and this project here. So just to generalize a little bit, this area obviously is located in the Waimama Community Plan with a WVR2 future land use. There's two areas we're asking for a transfer development right. There's the sending area to the north and the receiving area to the south. The total acreage is 909 acres. And overall, we're transferring 539 units from the north, remaining 2 units behind, and that is going to be added to the permitted 1,200 plus units for a total of approximately 1,800 units. Again, just the surrounding development. This is kind of snuggles between 2 existing planned development. You've got the Berry Bay development, in which, if you look at the site plan, we're going to be connecting to the west, and to the north we have the Davis plan development, and also with some connections to the north of that. Surrounding area is a mixed use of single-family agricultural use, and we have ELAP land all around the area. So we did have some community engagement meetings during the process of this application. The first one was May 1st. We met with the Waimama CDC meeting, and all of these occurred at the Waimama Civic Center. The second one was May 5th, and this was with surrounding neighbors. After that, we had a follow-up meeting on May 24th to discuss about the stakeholders in the area, and that was dwindling down some discussions that we started. And May 25th was a meeting with the task force of the CDC. In these top discussions, it was the community benefits, the housing types, and transportation. So as you're familiar with the WVR2, they went through a change recently, and there's 3 major changes that happened during that time. The code is very more detailed specific, which we have to follow, but there is also a requirements to provide different types of open space. And so we've been able to show that, the compliance with that and more. And then that's a requirement to be shown on the plan. Another interesting thing is if you're over 100 acres, you have to provide 6 different lot types. And as well as you have to provide different community benefits. And those community benefits are what really made the change from the old WVR2 to the new WVR2. Let's talk about the community benefits a little bit more here. So what we have is, we started this process, I would say, about a year ago, and going through all the community benefits that were described in the Land Development Code, we were able to find some that we felt could be applied, and with the help of the community, we refined them. So the first one is the trail, where there is a multi-use trail requirement to be access to 2 off-site either an ELAP property or the trail within the TCO easement. And we were able to provide that on the east-west main road. You'll see on the site plan, it's the cross-section that will show you the 12-foot multi-use trail. It's located on the south side of the road. Another benefit was the park. The community expressed some interest in having a park. Even though it's going to be privately maintained, it's going to be open to the public. And this park meets the intent of having open space for all the residents of Waimama. Another benefit, obviously, was the school. We contacted the school board. They had an interest in having an elementary school there. They liked that location. And so therefore, we were able to provide that. The other benefits are increase in open space, internal open space, recreation open space, and with all the green space that we went beyond and above, we were able to provide that. And the internal open space, recreation open space, is increasing that park that you see on the south side from 10 acres to 12.5 acres. And lastly is the, actually not lastly, but one of them is the non-residential, to provide some non-residential uses on site. That would be in a form of childcare, churches, flexible market space, and civic uses. And those, we have different locations in which we can provide that. And lastly, the affordable housing is a benefit that was specifically identified in the code, and we are able to commit ourselves to the 10% of units that will be affordable housing. And again, through the discussion with the community, we were also committed to the type of uses that are going to be in the park, which included tennis court, basketball courts, pickleball court, dog parks, and or playgrounds. And one of them is we're committed to these in our parks. Now it comes to the 6 lot types. Again, as you can see on there, there's different types of single-family homes, the 50s and the 60s. The 60s are located mostly to the south, while the 50-foot wide lots are mostly located to the north. We have a pocket of cottage houses on the south side to the east, and we have row houses, which are also known as townhomes, on both extremities. And we have the apartment houses around the cottage houses, so it creates this little community over there, and the civic lots as well that we discussed earlier. And we have agencies' recommendations of approval all around. Hillsborough County School Board, again, we had discussion with them to provide the elementary site. The the Planning Commission reviewed this greatly with Development Services and has found it consistent and compatible with the area and consistent with the Land Development Code. And with that, I thank you. These are letters that we received in support. It's been a long journey, but as Cammie said, we're excited to be here. Thank you. I'm here if you have any questions.
I just have a quick question I think perhaps you can address.
Sure.
There is a note on your receiving site plan that says that there'll be no community residential homes or live-work units.
Correct.
But I don't see that, and I do have, they've handed me a revised staff report. So the report I reviewed in the backup perhaps has that changed, I don't know. But I don't see that in the conditions. Is that the proposal, is to exclude those uses?
Well, we're not providing them, we're not proposing them.
Okay.
So by not proposing them, by default, it's excluding them.
Yes, that's, I just wanted to confirm.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
thank you so much.
And also, thank you for reminding me. Michelle and I, we did talk about, and just that condition 17 that I wanted to clarify, that I emailed you, and I'm just going to enter that into the record.
What does that pertain to?
Condition 17, this is for the open space requirement. We are committed to the number of acreage of open space, but then it was broken down to how, like acreage to like 36.2 acres, which was too specific at this time. We wanted that flexibility, but to at least provide that 36.37 acres.
Okay, understood.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, appreciate it.
Cammie Corbett again. I'd like to ask Steve Henry, our transportation consultant, to come up and address the roadway improvements we will be doing. There was a lot of discussion at the community meetings about traffic and transportation. I'd like him to address that.
Good evening. Steve Henry, Links and Associates, 5023 West Laurel, Tampa 33607. I'll go to the Elmo. So we have access to both 579 and then also Southfield Road. And we have submitted and have been deemed approvable 2 design exceptions, one for 579 and then one for Southfield Road. So I'll walk you through both of those real quickly, but they're both in your backup. One, because this is in the Waimama area, we had to do an essential elements analysis, which is in addition to the typical design exception to be able to determine that, in fact, there's not sufficient right-of-way to be able to build the improvements per the TTM. But I'll walk you through the ones that we're doing for 579. And what we've got is 3 sections that we're looking at for 579. And these improvements go all the way from 674 down to Southfield Road. So Section A is from 674 down to the Cypress Ridge development. And then B is basically the frontage of the Cypress Ridge development, which we don't control. And then segment C is from our northern boundary down to Southfield Road. And just real quickly walk you through the sections of those. This is Section A, and essentially what we're doing is the lane widths will stay the same. They're between 10 and 11 feet, which is out there today. But what we're doing is we're adding 6-foot shoulders with 5-foot paved. And so what that does is allows for more safety from a standpoint, but also allows for a bike lane. So that's what we're providing for that. And then in addition to that, we're providing a 10-foot sidewalk on the west side of the road. So that'll go from 674 along Section A. And then Section B is essentially the same section, which is the 6-foot shoulder, 5-foot paved. And then on this section, the developer for Cypress Ridge is building a 5-foot sidewalk. But what we're going to do is actually make that a 10-foot sidewalk. So we're either going to do it within existing right-of-way. They're required to dedicate right-of-way. So if, in fact, if they actually dedicate it, then we would build it on the outside of the right-of-way that they're dedicating. And then, again, the same thing on Section C. Basically the same section is the 6-foot shoulder, 5-foot paved with a 10-foot sidewalk there. Then in addition, we're also improving Southfield Road. And this shows the 2 sections. Section A is the portion that we have frontage along. Section B, we have a segment here in which we don't have any frontage along the roadway. So what we're doing there, let's see if I can get that to come up, is essentially the same thing that we're doing on 579. We're building the 6-foot shoulder, 5-foot paved, 10-foot sidewalk. And then on the section that we don't control, we really don't have the ability to do much more than provide a 5-foot sidewalk, simply because there's not sufficient right-of-way to be able to do anything more than that. But we are providing, so that way, at least from our western boundary to 579, there's a continuous pedestrian path along that portion of the roadway. And that concludes my presentation, unless you've got any questions.
I do. The conditions that talk about the construction of Berry Grove Boulevard.
Yes.
It's condition, I believe it's 21F is where I am. And it talks about concurrent, and this goes to when that will be built. That's my question. It talks about that it's required concurrent with the initial increment of development of the northern receiving area. So that is not specific to me. So can you tell me when you estimate, can we further define when that extension will be built?
And I'll let the developer speak to that.
Steve Luce, 201 South Armenia Avenue, Tampa, Florida. I have been sworn.
Thank you.
The intent of that condition is that we build that east-west road from its current terminus within Berry Bay all the way over to 579 with that first phase of development, which would be that first construction plan that gets approved. will have to have associated with it the east-west road.
So when you say that first construction plan,
Well, probably the first phase would be that first pod that is at the western end of the property on the north side of the east-west road closest to Berry Bay. And as we move forward, design and permitting and construction of that first pod, we will build the east-west road.
would you be amenable to committing to that in this condition so that there's more certainty as
If
to
the-
when that road will
Yeah,
be
however
built?
you want to wordsmith it to make it more clear and clarify that's the intent, that's fine.
Maybe Development Services, if you could help with that. It is condition 21F to the commitment of Mr. Luce on that pod, in that optical pod, because I think with a project, as I review this as a project of this size, that's the integral part as to when will these improvements actually take place. And the least vague commitment is not the best. So
Okay.
if you could, I'd appreciate it.
I think if we understand the intent, we could provide an
Thank you.
updated condition
All right, and then.
as part of changes to the plan.
Mr. Luce, they're asking you to sign in. But I just had one more transportation question. I don't know if you can answer it or perhaps Mr. Henry. In your transportation analysis, Mr. Henry, it talks about a breakdown, and I guess you had to do this, of the number of units, cottage, row house, so forth, to come to whatever the trips are that are generated.
Correct.
And so I don't see that in the zoning conditions. So I'm guessing, how was that laid out? I know you had to go through that exercise to determine the number of trips, but that didn't translate to a commitment to the conditions. And so I'm not sure, other than to get your agreement that that's how you calculated the analysis.
Correct, yeah, we were given what those number of units would be, and so that was the basis of the analysis that we conducted.
All right, thank you. And then maybe Mr. Luce or Ms. Corbett, if you could talk about how the mix of units will be in terms of the overall, I know you've committed to an overall maximum, but the analysis was based on a certain number of unit types and how that translates to what actually will be developed.
Yeah, there is a minimum requirement. I believe it's like 10% of each lot type shall be provided within the community. And then beyond that, we have a site plan which shows each pod and a range of units within each tract. So if you look at the pod and you look at the labeling, how many lots in each pod, you can see where you can follow the logic, where you can see where you're getting to at least a minimum 10% of each lot type. And we made sure we show that in a table as well as graphically on a site plan.
So the numbers that were provided to Mr. Henry for his analysis, that's your best estimate
That's
of
correct.
how it'll be. Thank you. I appreciate it.
And Cami Corbett again. It actually is addressed in the conditions in condition 31. You don't see it specifically broke down by type. Originally, we had a draft of the conditions that did just that. But in reality, the traffic study that we do is an access management study. And so, yes, it was our best guess of what we thought the uses would be. And like for the non-residential uses, we used some extreme examples, library, parks, and things. So we've overestimated traffic in some instances and then figured that there might be some shifts. So we addressed it through condition 31 that said these were the assumptions that the zoning was reviewed on, and the access management improvements that were agreed to were based on these assumptions. Should they change at site development, we could be subject to additional site access management, and
Yes,
that's how we address that.
I did read that. I appreciate you pointing that out.
And then just in addition to that, with respect to transportation, we will be paying the higher mobility fees here. We'll be subject to the rural rate. So there will be a significant amount of mobility fees generated in addition to the roadway improvements we just discussed. And with that, we'd respectfully request your approval.
All right, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Development Services.
I'm Michelle Heinrich, Development Services. Before I go over my information, I just want to let everyone in the hearing tonight aware that this will be heard at the July 18th, 2023 BOCC land use meeting, and that is reflected in our revised staff report. So again, that will be at the July 18th, 2023 BOCC land use meeting, and correspondingly, the ZHM recommendation will be filed by July 10th, 2023.
Yes, I will do that.
So again, this is a rezoning, as you heard, under the newly adopted WVR2 residential regulations, and the property consists of about 909 acres currently zoned AR, And as you heard at the beginning of the application, the applicants are proposing to transfer density from a sending area, which is about 270 acres, and that will provide 539 units to the two receiving areas, which are about 638 acres. So the combined density will be 1,816, which comes out to a density of 2 units per acre. A conservation easement and 2 single-family homes will be provided for in the sending area. And the receiving area is where the activity will occur in the development. And that area will feature multiple residential development areas, 3 neighborhood centers, recreational uses, both passive and active, and also a permissible or a permitted K through 5 public school. As you heard, the WVR2 requirements require 6 different lot types, and the applicants are proposing that, and that will include detached homes, attached homes, and multifamily homes. And also a majority of these lot types do require rear access for vehicles to de-emphasize the garages, and the applicants are providing that. They are meeting the required minimum acreage for neighborhood centers, which are to provide residential support uses such as daycares, churches, and municipal buildings. And commercial uses are not permitted in the neighborhood center in order to direct those to the downtown area. And also, just to answer your question very quickly that you had for the applicant, the WVR2 regulations have a listing of uses that can be in a neighborhood center, and some of those do include live, work, and the community residential homes. So that was one of our first questions to them, and they responded that they wouldn't be doing those by putting that note in the condition.
Okay, thank you.
Or on the site plan, sorry. And also you'll see on the site plan, both the residential and non-residential uses, excluding the public school, will occur in a required block development pattern to provide connectivity and clustering to preserve open space and recreational areas. And as you probably noticed in the review of the requirements, open space and recreation are significant features in the WVR2 area, and this project does meet or exceed those requirements. The project exceeds the minimum 40% of gross project acreage to be left as open space, and they're also complying with the minimum amount of contiguous areas, which is being provided in the sending area, and the minimum of 10% of internal open space, which is happening in the receiving area, which they're exceeding. You already heard from the applicant the 6 benefits that they're proposing, so I won't go over that, being as I feel they gave a very good overview of that. And I would also just state that in our review, we find the project to be compatible given the recent development of similar projects at 2 units per acre. You saw the applicant show some of those. One was to the west, which is Berry Bay, and one to the north, which is the Davis parcel. We did not receive any objections from reviewing agencies and received a finding of consistency from the Planning Commission, and therefore staff does recommend approval subject to proposed conditions. And at the beginning of the hearing, I did provide you with a revised staff report. Firstly, that reflects the new BOCC date. Also, the report shows corrections on pages 8 and 9 to correctly identify the sending and receiving areas. Corrections on page 13 to correct an acreage and orientation statement. A modification of condition 12 on page 20 in regards to the location of neighborhood centers. A modification of condition 17 on page 20 in regards to the specific internal open space acreages that you heard Ms. Albert speak to, and also a modification of condition 18.3 on page 21 with an update to the affordable housing condition. And I'm available if you have any questions.
I just have one question, and that pertains to new, in the new staff report, it's zoning condition 18.6A. And it talks about when the on-site non-residential use has to be constructed. And I just wondered why, if the requirement is at the more than, let me get the segment. So prior to the final plat approval of more than 75% of the residential units, and here's my question, parentheses 1363 to 1634 residential units. Why is there a range? Why isn't it just 1363?
I believe that reflects that percentile from the 75 to the 90 or 89%. Because there's a second trigger as well, that a certain amount has to be constructed by 90%.
Oh, I see. All right, just trying to tie it down to more specificity, so I understand. Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Sure.
I appreciate it. That was my only one. Planning Commission.
Andrea Pappendrew, Planning Commission staff. The site is in the Wamama Village Residential 2 Future Land Use category and is within the Wamama Village Community Plan and South Shore Area-Wide Systems Plan. The proposed meets the intent of Objective 16 and its policies. The proposal includes appropriate setbacks and buffers and mitigates adverse impacts to the environmentally sensitive areas. As already stated by the applicant and DSD, a variety of housing types are proposed. Request is also consistent with Future Land Use Element Policy 48.7 on the 6 community benefits. 4 benefits are proposed from Tier 1, first one being the multi-use trail along County Road 579. Second one is a 10-acre park, which will contribute to the open space goals in the Wamama Community Plan, requiring open space for new subdivisions with 50 or more dwelling units and promoting passive recreation approximate to ELAP sites. For the third benefit, 10% of the units will be affordable and meet the Wamama Community Plan that encourages housing for a diverse population, range of income levels, and orient residential development to the conceptual cross-county Greenway Trail at Wamama. Lastly, the public school site will meet the educational goals in the community plan. And then there are 2 goals from the Tier 2 community benefits list that are being met. The applicant's proposing a 25% increase in internal open space, also constructing on-site non-residential uses within the required neighborhood center at 42 square feet per housing unit for 30% of the proposed units or 3,000 square feet, whichever is larger. And they're also, these 2 neighborhood centers will be limited to a maximum floor area ratio of 0.25. They're also meeting FLU policy 48.9 on the transfer of development rights. 2 residential units in the sending area and 1,816 in the residential and the receiving. Because the 2 units are proposed in the designated sending area, they are consistent with policy 48.9.8.1 to make sure a property is not left with less development rights than the existing dwellings on said property. They're also consistent with 12.1 and 12-1.4, the community design component on compatibility with established character of the surrounding area. The development pattern and character mainly contains agricultural uses, vacant land, single-family residential. And as previously stated, there are a number of community benefits being proposed that directly or indirectly contribute to furthering a goal in the Wamama Village Community Plan. So based upon the above considerations, Planning Commission staff finds the proposed plan development consistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan, subject to the conditions proposed by the County Department of Development Services.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. We'll go to anyone that wants to speak in support. Anyone in favor of the application, either in the room or online? Good evening. And while you're coming forward, is there anyone else that would like to speak in support? How many people? Are you all testifying in support? All right.
We're all testifying. Not necessarily in support.
All right. Well, I'm just trying to get my categories correct. So are you testifying in support?
Yes.
All right. And gentlemen, are you testifying in support as well?
Generally, yes.
Okay. So we have 3. And is there anyone online that would like to speak? All right. Seeing none, then we'll say 5 minutes apiece for the 15 minutes. So go ahead and give us your name and address.
Okay. I'm John Regan. I live at 5051 Sandy Brook Circle, Waimama, Florida, 33598. The Waimama Community Plan Task Force, which I'm a member, has been working with the Eisenhower Group in regard to this rezoning application. Our task force has been working successfully with the developer to provide Waimama community benefits for a win-win agreement. I'm requesting the Hillsborough County Commissioners direct more than $20 million in impact and mobility fees from this development to be set aside for Waimama business owners and Waimama infrastructure improvements. Examples: widen Route 674 between 301 and just beyond Railroad Street from the current 2 lanes to 4 lanes. 2, install intersection streetlights along 674 at Westlake and 1 or 2 other intersections with heavy traffic as determined by the Florida Department of Transportation. 3, improve water pressure along Route 674, which will attract business development that will create local jobs. Infrastructure improvements must coincide with the development of this 900 acres with 1,800 homes now rather than after this development to prevent additional gridlock. Hopefully, county funding for infrastructure improvements, which are woefully needed, can be matched with state and federal infrastructure funding. I am supporter of the rezoning application, noting that we still have a few minor benefits to work out with the developer. I am also hopeful the collaboration between the developer and our task force will continue for future projects. This will not be the last development that Eisenhower Group will desire to work with our task force and our community. Thank you.
Thank you for coming down. If you could please sign in.
Yep.
Next, please. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Don Hampton. I live at 16692 Carlton Pond Street, Waimama. I'm also a member of the Waimama Task Force. We've been meeting with the Eisenhower Group. We have had some great discussions back and forth. And I also support the 900-acre development that they're trying to do. The concerns that I had was that, can I ask you a question? No.
That's
okay,
not really how it works.
Okay, all right. Last year I thought I read that it was a moratorium on certain trees, and that's one of the things I would ask Eisenhower to do a study to find out what trees roots go down, such as oak trees and other trees that tear up the sidewalks and tear up the sewer and the water. So if they could do that, I'd appreciate that a lot. Secondly, they mentioned affordable housing. I hope they give priority to the Waimama citizens there, those citizens lower income, and we know one day it might be gentrification, which is a bad word, but I've seen it happen in certain communities, so I'm concerned about them. Also, I want to reiterate what John said, too, about road development. I don't understand how for the last 30 years we keep building subdivisions, but we don't build the roads first. Then we all get mad, because what took us a half an hour before takes us an hour and a half to get there. When I look at this subdivision, that's 3,600 cars. Then to the west of that or east, they're going to build another subdivision. People are complaining now in the neighborhood when we go out and talk to them. And it's not just our neighborhood. I look at my GPS sometime and it says it takes me so much time, it's only 15 miles away. Why does it take me 45 minutes? That's because of the roadway. So I'm hoping that we will stop and say, hey, together with the developers, with the county, and with the Florida Department of Transportation and the community groups, we sit down and say, hey, enough's enough. Let's do this right. And I've been told by certain people that, hey, it costs too much money. Well, if it costs $100 million right now, if we wait 4 years, how much is it going to cost it? $200 million? You're still raising my taxes no matter what. But at least let me get the most valuable thing I got in the world is time, not even money. It's time. So I want to get there in 15 minutes. I don't want to get there in a half an hour. And right now, the snowbirds are at home, so I can get there in 15 minutes. They're back up north. And finally, what I like to say is I know that the developers do all their homework. I know they get recommendations from the planning. They get recommendations from zoning. And I know it's legal. But just because it's legal, don't mean it's the right thing to do. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Please sign in. Next, please. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Gil Martinez with the Waimama Community Development Corporation. On behalf of the Waimama CDC, I'd like to first of all acknowledge Land Development Services staff and Planning Commission staff for working closely with the community and making sure that our voices are heard in this process and that our requests are taken into consideration. I also want to acknowledge Steve and Cammie and Isabel and my friend, transportation man here, which name I don't remember. Thank you all for taking the time to meeting with the community. Thank you all for taking us into consideration and making some commitments that are truly above and beyond what we expected. So we look forward to continued conversations with you. But for the record, I need to put this on. The Waimama Community Plan Activation Task Force met with Eisenhower Group back in May of this year, May 25th. So in an effort to honor the Waimama Village Neighborhood Plan, the Waimama Community Plan Activation Task Force, better known as the WCPAT, a program of the Waimama CDC, advocates for the appropriate implementation of the Waimama Village Neighborhood Plan. We have performed our due diligence and met with Eisenhower Realty Group to discuss the rezoning application before you. Our accountability discussions included requiring additional community benefits, advocating for infrastructure improvements, an increase in roadway capacities, minimize environmental impacts, a focus on increase in affordable housing, and a commitment to agricultural land use. Based on these agreed upon verbal commitments by Eisenhower Group, the Waimama CDC acknowledges that this rezoning is consistent and meets the requirements of the Waimama Community Plan. The 900-acre, 1816 homes PD has offered the following community benefits which are intended to be accessible and serve the community at large. It is our understanding that there's going to be 2 multi-use trails in this project, one going eastbound, one going eastbound and westbound, and one going along 579 between Saffold to 674. We have met with them and we have discussed desires that the community would like to see associated with these trails. Those desires include environmental sensitive lighting, dedicated bike lanes, seating areas, benches, 911 kiosk, trail parking in descending lands. As was mentioned earlier, there's some concern about the type of trees that are being planted or potentially planted on these multi-trails for consideration. As far as public parks, 12 acres, there were commitments made to ensuring a pickleball court, basketball, tennis court, soccer field, shaded playground, public parking, public restrooms, and an outdoor pavilion. Of course, we're very supportive of the dedicated lands for Hillsborough County School District. We are supportive of the 25% increase of 12.5 acres above the open space, but we do caution that this must include a maintenance and monitoring schedule program. These plans must be put in place to prevent these areas from turning into problematic weed fields and non-native vegetation. The concept of open space as a community benefit cannot be realized if the functional habitat is not maintained. We request that there be some definition as to what the end uses of the sending lands would be. Is there going to be some restrictive rezoning, some restrictions to rezonings in the future or anything along those lines? We'd like to see that. We discussed potentially the developer constructing the child care facility. That is something we're currently discussing with them. We would like to see public parking provided as well for the open air market. In regards to the 180 units of affordable housing, the Waimama CDC has met with the Eisenhower Group, and they will be setting aside 180 homes at affordable housing rate. The Waimama CDC requests a right to first refusal to facilitate this community benefit into a community good. The Waimama CDC will either directly facilitate the program or outsource the program to a community partner to facilitate the program. I don't know if Steve or Cammie mentioned this, but this was part of the discussions that we had. They made a commitment to us to provide 10 acres for community urban farmland. Once again, the CDC requests a right to first refusal to facilitate this community benefit into a community good. And lastly, as was mentioned, the project mobility fees are associated to be upward of $20 million. On behalf of Waimama residents, business owners, the Waimama CDC, the Waimama CPAT requests the BOCC allocate the collected fees in their totality to be directed towards investment in safety and roadway improvements in Waimama concurrent with the project's construction. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. If you could please sign in. Was that the last person to speak in support? I believe so. Okay. Do we have anyone that would like to testify in opposition? Opposition? All right. While you're coming forward, is there anyone else that would like to speak in opposition, either in the room or online? All right. Seeing no one, go ahead and give us your name and address,
Thank
please.
you. My name is Michael Marca. I live at 10759 Standing Stone Drive in Waimama. And looking at the plan, I understand that development's going to happen. It has to happen. We have to do something. I just see we're giving in a lot to the developers. All the exemptions on the TTM, they say they don't have the right of way. Buy the right of way. If you can't do the plan according to what the county wants, then we shouldn't be approving these plans. When we go further and look at their overall plan, and on page 68 of the Waimama Community Plan, it talks about how we're going from dense areas, or from less dense areas to denser areas as we get to downtown Waimama. This is on the southeast edge of the WVR2 zoning. It should be the least dense. We shouldn't be taking density from the sending unit that's right next to downtown Waimama. We've got 200 acres there that now is never going to be developed, and it's right next to what is trying to be a downtown Waimama. We're taking those and we're bringing them down to 2 units on the southern end. You've got 2 receiving units on the southern end that don't even touch each other, which leads us to another point that under policy 48.10, the developer must provide interconnected trail systems internal to the plan development and external to the outside plan developments. They, in essence, have 2 separate parcels that are not connected to each other, and they can't follow policy 48.10 because they don't own the property in between the 2 of them. It's about a 40-foot wide strip, might be 30, might be 20, I'm not sure. And it goes the entire length. It's on the south side of the school and runs the entire length of that property. I think if this were to be done right, it should be done under 2 separate plan developments, which would involve 2 separate sets of community benefits and everything else. Then they wouldn't have to connect these. But right now, they can't even interconnect in their own development, according to, I believe it's a must provide in that policy also. So, thank you very much.
Thanks for coming down. Please sign in. All right, seeing no one else that wants to testify in opposition, we'll go back to Development Services.
Madam Hearing Officer, just to clarify for the change you're seeking to see in condition 21F, I think what you're looking at is have that reference in some degree to the site development approval process as opposed to first increment. I think that's where you're looking to get some clarity on.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Concurrently with initial increment of development doesn't mean anything to me. So,
okay.
yeah.
Understood. So we can work on that and provide revised conditions to
Perfect.
change that reference to site development, or we'll work something out. All
Okay.
right, thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. All right. If nothing further from Development Services, then we'll go back to the applicant who has 5 minutes for rebuttal.
Corbett again. I'd like to have Steve Henry come up and just reiterate some of the standards that we're agreeing to.
Okay. Thank you.
And Steve Henry. So one talking about the TTM and the design exceptions we're asking for. So on 579, to give you an example, we're asking for design exception to the TTM. The shoulders, the TTM standards an 8-foot shoulder, 5-foot paved. We're doing 6-foot shoulder, 5-foot paved. So there's a slight difference because of, again, right-of-way constraints. Also, there's a 5-foot sidewalk on both sides of the street on the TTM. We're doing a 10-foot on the west side. So yes, there is a design exception for that because of limited right-of-way on the east side of the road that we don't control. But the reality is, in essence, we're putting in almost the TTM standards for what we've got from a safety standpoint. And same thing on Southfield Road. We're doing the same type of thing, other than where we don't control any right-of-way for that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, Cammie Corbett again. Just wanted to direct your attention as well to a letter in the record from Ms. Wanda Broughton. She is the president of the Waimama Civic Association. She's also one of the original people that were involved in the original WVR community plan, and we do have a letter of record that is in support of our proposed redevelopment. She's not happy about how the regulations ended up, but she is in support of this redevelopment. And that's kind of the point that I'm going to make about some of the things that were just said. We did have an extensive community engagement process in this county for the WVR area. We have a community plan, we have a comprehensive plan, and we have land development regulations. And the staff has determined that what we are proposing is consistent with all of those. Obviously, when you get down to the practical application of those regulations, there are some interpretations that have to be made, but those are best made by the professional planners at the county and also our professional planners and designers who have designed the site. And I think we've demonstrated full compliance with both. And I do believe that we have also committed to the commitments that we've made to the community. We have addressed through the conditions where appropriate. There are some other areas of commitment that they've asked for that would not be appropriate for zoning conditions, so we will continue to speak with them as we move through the process.
Does that conclude your rebuttal?
It does.
All right, thank you so much. Then with that, we'll close rezoning 23-0041 and adjourn the hearing. Thank you all for your time and testimony.